what this offense has turned into. I'm not sitting there and saying I love how efficient it feels. It's not. It's not overly efficient. But I love that they've basically just said, all right, forget about it. Our best attribute might be quarterback run. We're running the quarterback. And that's just going to be what we do. And that's just going to be how we operate. And then that possibility and threat of quarterback run is going to lead to a lot of opportunities to push the ball down the field. So I'm fine with that. As long as what I don't like is when we take square pegs and we try to force them into round holes. Like last year's staff, I felt like constantly tried to make Jalen into a pocket passer. That's not him. That's not who he is. This staff is saying, forget about it. You're getting at least 10 carries a game, maybe 15. And if we need you against the likes of Georgia and Texas to run it 20 times, you're running it 20 times. So I love that they've kind of just said, hey, enough already. We're not going to make you do things that you're not comfortable doing or not good doing. We're just going to run you, and that'll open everything up. And it's really been pretty awesome to watch. I mean, he's great on the quarterback sweeps, and they've used him a bunch this year, and it's led to big plays.
I like to early on felt comfortable with him just getting to the check down, just taking what was there, not trying to get greedy,
Yes.
not trying to do too much.
Bunch of those.
But some of the shot play stuff started coming back later. And listen, you're going to hit some of those. I mean, Ryan Williams continues to prove he's amazing. Are they going to need more in the intermediate? Is that going to have to happen for this offense to get through this schedule, in your opinion?
No, I thought it was exactly what I saw on Saturday is exactly what I want to see. Exactly what we talked about was frustrating. It's like he was bypassing the underneath almost always in an effort to start and stay downfield too long. Like, take the underneath, man. Just pound that 5-yard completion. If you pound that 5-yard completion over and over and over again, at some point they're going to start to get greedy, and then you push it downfield over their heads. I was great with the plan. I thought the offense, that was as good as I can hope the offense is. The intermediate would be great. Yeah. Why would the intermediate be great? Because then it looks like an NFL offense. But if that's not who Jalen is, that's not who Jalen is. It's fine. And who cares? Like, let's play to the quarterback's strengths, which I think are quarterback run game by a mile. I think that's by far his best attribute. And he throws a pretty good deep ball. So play to that, and I'm fine with that. Now, the intermediate passing game is easy on the eyes. Yes, 100%. It's fluid. It's fun. It's nice to watch. I mean, when you watch Georgia and they're operating at max capacity because of the intermediate passing game, it's really good. It's really fun to watch. But it's not something that you absolutely positively have to have. It'd be nice to have it, but I think with how he runs the ball, it's not an absolute necessity.
A couple things that I liked about it, like you said, it felt crisp, felt clean, felt like the plan was deliberate. The execution was pretty deliberate. Saw a little bit more of the downhill run game. And I mean, when these backs both, I mean, I know Jam Miller not as big as Justice Haynes, but when they get north and south, they get going, and both neither afraid to get in there and throw a lead block every now and then. Some of those quarterback runs, like you mentioned, Greg, and then you had your offensive line. This is what it was supposed to look like at the beginning of the year, and I mean, Booker brought it. I thought Proctor is one of the more physical games I've seen Proctor play in his Alabama career. Parker Brailsford was not this physical last year. Like, he didn't give you all this extra stuff last year. He was a really good player, and you and I've talked about him a lot. He was technically sound, fundamentally sound. He understand angles. He understood how to utilize his hands. It's a lot of the position stuff that he needed to do and what they were doing offensively, but he got something extra going this year. I don't know what got into him, if it's just being around Tyler Booker a little bit more. But he's been fun to watch. And then obviously the right side was kind of, this is what it was supposed to be. So I think that helped too. You saw the tight end usage continued to go in this game. Dupree with the big block on the outside. And then, I mean, I don't know about you, but Kendrick Law and the way he was blocking in this game, I know we don't often brag about receivers blocking, but
there we go.
I mean, he was getting after it. And I mean, he was head.
They had a couple
literally.
Of them. He wasn't the only one.
It was awesome to watch. I mean, if you can get that group blocking like that and add a blocker and go quarterback run, man, they're going to be tough. They're going to be almost impossible to defend. And when you have playmakers that can take high percentage throws, turn those into explosive, they're going to be difficult. And that Wisconsin defense, it's not one of the bigger defenses they're going to play. Not one of the more athletic they're going to play, but I mean, they're sound. They're usually where they need to be, and they play hard. And they did it in this game still. And Alabama was able to do what they did offensively, which was just an impressive day. Jalen Milroe goes 12 of 17, 196 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, 14 on the ground for 75 yards, 2 more touchdowns. Kind of spread the wealth a little bit in the run game opposite him. Jam Miller, 9 for 71, Haynes, 2 for 17. Ryan Williams, 4 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. And that might be maybe the most valuable piece of this offense, Greg, is that it's kind of what we talked about the Georgia offense coming into the season. And we haven't really seen it be this yet, but it doesn't have to be just one guy. I mean, they can lean on one of the 2 backs. There are multiple receivers that have shown they can be a go-to player. Quarterback run can be something that they lean on. And that's where you truly just become really difficult to handle for opposing defenses.
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive performance. It was by far the best performance of the year. I still have some questions about the defense. If I'm going to be completely honest, watching the game, Braden Locke's just not going to put a lot of threat into the defense. There's not a single moment in which I was watching that game thinking to myself, oh boy, I actually thought, if nothing else, it was I almost felt sorry for Wisconsin there at times offensively. I thought they did a good job of getting the ball out. I mean, they forced a couple fumbles. Ball was on the ground a couple times and obviously recorded a couple fumble recoveries. So that was encouraging, and that was a good sight to see. But we're not going to know about this defense until 2 weeks from now, just being honest. I think I'm optimistic. I thought Jahad Campbell had some great moments. I thought Lawson had an amazing moment on a short darted situation where he ran through and made the play behind the line of scrimmage. Like, he's playing really well right now, I feel like. I think the linebackers are an absolute strength. Malachi, we had said in the preseason, he's not the biggest guy in the world, so there are some concerns with me, about him taking some hits and getting beat up a little bit. That is something that will concern me as the season goes along. But and then Quay getting baited up, did not like seeing that whatsoever. I have not seen any prognosis from him just yet, but not a good looking injury. Got his left knee kind of dinged up and wasn't able to put any weight on it when he was leaving the field. So him being out potentially is something that is significant. So if he can't go, I hate to see that. But sounds like they're going to evaluate him. Kalen didn't say anything after the game, but Quay Russaw is something I'm real concerned about.
No, they used him in multiple ways, too. You saw him line up off the edge. He was kind of off the ball just a little bit, slant down inside some. Did think if there was kind of a nitpick on the defense, lost contain a couple times, got a little bit too aggressive out there on the edge. But not just lost it on that short yardage play. There were a couple plays out towards the sideline, Greg, and I mean, this might sound bad. Maybe it's the opponent, but those Alabama's linebackers looked even faster in this game. And I just kept telling myself that, like, maybe this offense is slow. We know they're fast. We know they can run. We said at game 1 against Western Kentucky that they just look sleeker. You said it might be the numbers going to 11-0 that helps just a little bit, but
it doesn't hurt.
we know how Coach Ballou can help those guys change their bodies and change how they operate one off season. But they looked even faster in this game to me. I thought you got some really good play at the line of scrimmage defensively also. Was that a dominant performance by LT Overton? It's pretty close. And I'm not just talking about the sack either. Like, I mean, he did some good things against the run. Like, he was setting the edge a couple of times. They stunted him down inside a few times. He was very disruptive. I thought it was one of the better games. And then we saw Tim Smith. Like, he flashed a couple of times. There's one play, Greg. I'll pull the number for you and I'll send it to you. That he doesn't make the play, but what he does to the right guard, the right guard's feet almost come off the ground. It's a run play. And he's like striking and shedding, and he's almost picking him up and shaking him back and forth. And I'm just sitting there thinking, does this guard weigh 280? And I don't know it because it's like this shouldn't be happening. But I thought up front, this was maybe, I know it's not 20 sacks or anything like that, or 15 tackles for loss, but I thought fundamentally playing within the scheme, this was the front. Maybe it was their best game of the season.
No doubt. And I think we got an opportunity to. I thought the front played great. I think it has a lot to do with the opponent. So I'm taking it with a slight grain of salt. Look, I love Luke Fickell. And I don't know about you guys from a distance, okay? And I'm not sitting here suggesting that we go get Bucky the Badger shirts, okay? I'm not saying that. But that's a program I have a lot of respect for. And Cole, I know you probably, just knowing you and knowing your personality, that's a program I admire that program. Always have. Um, and it's, like it's one of those places, like if you said, Greg, you can't go to Alabama, give me a list of 10 other schools you'd like to go to. Wisconsin probably be on that list for me. I just really have a lot of admiration for that program, but my goodness, they've fallen off from a skill standpoint. They just don't have the personnel, the front, the offensive line. And look, I know a lot of it has to do with how well Bama played in the front. And it looked like they were challenged. It looked like they were ticked off with how they played last week. And the message certainly hit home. And this was a coming out party. It was an excellent performance, really all over the place. I still have my question marks about the secondary because they haven't played anybody that can beat them through the air yet or test them through the air yet. But hey, we'll find out in a couple weeks where they're at.
Yeah.
But my goodness, if there's one other takeaway, is just how much Wisconsin's fallen off. They are nowhere near the program that they were even 3 or 4 years ago. And it's really disappointing to see them where they're at, to be honest with you.
No, I'm with you. And my mom's family, the Likeleys, they're all from, her great grandparents are from Watertown, Wisconsin. So we've been up there in the summers a couple of times, and they were all Wisconsin fans. And so I had to hear about it growing up, and then paying a little extra attention to it. Like you said, knowing my personality, seeing all the great offensive linemen that came through, the way they could run the football, and it doesn't look anywhere near the way it used to. And I know you're trying to do a couple of different things offensively, and that's fine. But also, I think there are parts of what you have tried to morph into offensively that you could have attempted to utilize in this game and didn't really. I wasn't big on the offensive plan for Wisconsin. I didn't feel like it really challenged Alabama in places that you may have been able to at least attempt to challenge them. Formationally was number one, but I know you probably feel like you needed some extra help, and that's the way that you went with it. All right, here's what we got for you today. Paul Feinbaum coming up right after the break. Tyler Watts moving up to 8:30 today, and as Greg just stated, a place that we have a lot of respect for, a place that I think all of us want to at least attend a game. Excited to hear what Tyler just thought of the atmosphere and thought of Camp Randall and what it was like. And then Taylor Davis did sideline for the Auburn game. She had some really interesting things to say about her meetings with Coach Freeze on Friday. We'll hear from her at 9:20 and just get her thoughts on that Auburn game. Hank Brown, now the quarterback, all the problems have been solved, Greg. Everything has been solved, and everybody at our station other than you and I were right. So we'll talk about that after Paul Feinbaum visits with us and discuss that a little bit more. First, I'll tell you about Gusty Gulas and the Gusty Gulas Group, 205-542-1996. You can Google Gusty Gulas Group. You can go to GustyGulasGroup.com. Check them out online. Brokered by eXp Realty, serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers there in the greater Birmingham area. Since 2012, Gusty Gulas Group recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. So go check out what Gusty can do for you. He's helped family members of mine. He can help you get into a new home. Find out what your home is worth with very little effort right now. 205-542-1996 or Google Gusty Gulas Group today, and you'll see all those 5-star reviews. Paul Feinbaum next on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning, Monday, September 16th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Listen on the app. It's in your App Store, iPhone, Android. You can download it for free. Search WJOX. 8:23 a.m. He joins us each and every week thanks to our friends at Craneworks. You can hear him 2 to 6 p.m. right here on Jocks. See him on the SEC Network weekday afternoons as well. See him on SEC Nation Saturday mornings. It's Paul Feinbaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Feinbaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Feinbaum.
Paul, always great to have you in on a Monday. Interested in your thoughts on the league overall. SEC goes into Big Ten country again, gets another convincing win, but a couple of letdown losses across the league as well. Where do you sort of rate, how do you view the SEC in its entirety after week 3?
Cole, when you look at the top 10, and everyone knows what we're talking about there, you have to look at it as a positive, because that's what the most of the nation pays attention to. They look at the treetop. They look at 6 of the top 7 or whatever it is. They don't pay as much attention, as you know, because you both are on a national level, to what happened at Vanderbilt or Mississippi State. So I think we obsess over it because we cover the whole league, at least at the SEC network. And quite frankly, there's some pretty embarrassing losses this year. But when you counter what happened in Starkville versus what happened in Madison, the Alabama win is just significantly higher, because beyond a very small scope of viewers, Mississippi State is not on anybody's radar screen, and quite frankly shouldn't be.
Paul, I found great joy, and you were on at the same time. But I was watching Big Noon Kickoff, and one of the last segments they had before the game between Alabama and Wisconsin started was how many SEC teams will make the college football playoff. And as one would imagine, and you, I'm sure you haven't spent much time watching that show, but it was amazing. Fox is certainly, invested in the Big Ten success, and Urban Meyer just gets right up there on the show and says he could see as many as 7 teams from the SEC making the college football playoff. Meanwhile, Leinert's like, yeah, I could see 6. Brady Quinn's like, yeah, I could see 5 or 6. Ingram's like, I don't know. And Rob Stone's like, oh, let's be real, guys. It's going to be more like 4. Of course, marching orders in line. How many teams do you think really might make it from the SEC into the college football playoff based on what we've seen through 3 weeks?
Wow, by the way, I suddenly have gained a lot more respect for Urban Meyer than I've ever had.
It was amazing. You should have seen, Rob Stone, I thought was going to fall out of his chair. It was like, you can't say that, coach. It was so good. It was so good. Go ahead. I apologize.
I'm still going to stick with 4, because I think we can't get hung up on the moment, and I think too often we do. Things start to happen, Craig. You know it. You're at games every week. So I think 4 is conservative, 5 possible, 7 unrealistic, because I think what Urban's really saying there is that there's not many schools in the league that we're here covering that are worthy, and I think ultimately that's the message. But I'll stay with 4.
Paul Feinbaum joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline with us each and every Monday, thanks to Craneworks. So specifically on this Alabama win, it looks like the offense is going to be a little bit more catered to what Jalen can do on his legs. Feels like the defense catching on. Is this team ahead of schedule for you through 3 weeks?
Today they are, yeah. Last week they weren't, but I think this is the first test we really had a chance to analyze, and I think it's also important with Proctor in there. They're a different team, and because you don't have to play patchwork on the offensive line. But I came away really fired up about Alabama. I know that maybe sounding different than a lot of people expected from a week ago, but this is a perfect moment for them. They get a chance to get everybody even a little healthier. And when you juxtapose that versus Georgia, I think Alabama folks have to feel pretty good right now. And I don't think what happened to Georgia Saturday night and I'll certainly defer to Greg. He knows more about the game than I do. Is really a critical factor today. We see a lot of that from Georgia, but I feel absolutely fired up about Alabama, and I think they are way ahead of schedule.
They looked very clean, Paul. But quick question: I am really interested, really interested in your perspective of how Georgia played, how Texas has played, how Alabama's played, how Ole Miss has played. Should we kind of just take the first 3 or 4 weeks with a slight grain of salt, because we just don't know how good Wisconsin, for all we know, might be a 3-9 football team. And I don't think they'll be that way, but they could be. Michigan might be a 7-5 football team. Kentucky might rally and win 8 or 9 games, and we're going to look back and say, oh, you know what? That was actually a pretty good win on the road. How would you how should we analyze the first few weeks of the season based on the fact that the level of competition we just don't know that much about?
I think you always have to be careful, but I don't want to caution anyone too much because we wait all year to get that first game and then we jump to conclusions. But I think you're right. It's been a bizarre year. There have not been a lot of quality games every week, so you're grasping at straws a little bit, and not that Vegas is the indicator, but it's a benchmark, and we knew going into that game that at least perception-wise, Wisconsin and Alabama were on different planets. So I just like the way they played. They could have gone up there and won a sloppy game. They didn't. They were outstanding. Same for Texas and Michigan. You see it in the NFL too, Greg. We all, maybe everybody missed the point about the Saints. Maybe they really are that great. But because they're killing teams. But that's the first couple of weeks of the season. I think I know more who's horrible, and maybe that's only because I've spent 2 out of the last 3 Saturdays in Gainesville.
Paul Feinbaum with us on the Buyers Right Hotline. He joins us every Monday thanks to Craneworks. Paul, Hank Brown comes in for Auburn, 17-25, 235 yards, 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions. How much more bright is this future for Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers this year?
See, I'm going to defend Hugh Freeze. Now we know why Hugh Freeze didn't go into the portal. He knew he had a great backup, didn't he? I was really happy about that. I thought he played with such amazing poise. I wish I could say the same about the rest of the team. They still look undisciplined at times. I'm a little concerned about the defensive line. I'm concerned about a lot of things, but the thing that I'm less concerned about is the quarterback, and that's the most important thing.
But Paul, do you think that? And I have this big theory, and it's been on my mind really all day, about backup quarterbacks. Backup quarterbacks to me are a fascinating topic of conversation in the modern day in college football. We have the situation like we have at A&M where Marcel Reed goes in and plays amazing, and now he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You have a situation in Florida where you have a starting quarterback that's been good. You're clamoring for the backup. He's clearly he's still a young player at this point. Tyler Van Dyke gets hurt. Well, that's why Wisconsin lost. Colt McCoy got hurt in 2009. Oh, that's why Texas lost. It's like, to me, there's this conversation about backup quarterbacks as if they're either God's gift to football or they're the reason why they lost the game. And I feel like a game against Northern New Mexico, the 134th ranked defense in the country, is hard for me to draw conclusions. I thought it was a good performance, but come on now. You don't think Peyton Thorne could have done what he did on Saturday? Shouldn't we kind of proceed with caution a little bit? And I know that's not something you like to do on your show, but shouldn't we just be a little bit more careful before anointing the next best thing?
Greg, we don't have breaks on our show, so that's why
your show's allowed. Your show is a fan-centric, totally get it. Yeah. But should we, before we give him the Heisman, should we not just let this thing kind of play out?
We should, but we're not going to, because I think Auburn fans were just desperate to cling on something, and that's the nature of fandom. And I certainly understand how I know you well enough. I know Cole well enough. You guys you analyze what you know going into the game, Most of us are just reactionary. So good luck trying to calm everyone down right now. Auburn fans feel great, and I'm all for it.
Paul, I'm so glad you brought up Heisman. Did you predict 2 Heismans for Arch Manning, or was it just 1 over the weekend?
Actually 3.
3. Okay.
I mean,
he's got 2 years of eligibility left, but it's going to be so good. He's going to win 2. He's going to win 2 in 1 year.
I was asked, do you think he'll do something that none of the Mannings ever did? And I felt like if I said no, I'm going to disappoint the producers on SportsCenter. And you know me, Greg. I never like to leave those guys hungry. So. But the answer is 1.
Just 1. Okay. Is this going to be an issue for Sark this season, in your opinion?
I don't think so. And we're talking about a guy who understands his role, and I think he had his moment yesterday on Saturday. So I think Arch Manning is probably the most grounded quarterback in college football, based on what I'm watching from a distance.
He's legit, and he's going to be a great player. I know it's hard to draw conclusions right now, Paul, about games by Ole Miss, and what a gauntlet they've had to run this year, and it gets harder this week when Clay Helton and Georgia Southern comes to town, and then Missouri with how they played against Boston College. It was a nice response. I thought they had a nice second half after a bit of a slow start, and then finally what we saw from Tennessee. And Tennessee, look, I think Heupel can name a score against a team like that, so I don't put a whole lot of stock into it. But that's the order we have them in right now: Ole Miss, Missouri, Tennessee. Is that the order it should be in?
No, I think it should be Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Missouri. And again, I think Tennessee's been and Ole Miss are on an equally impressive run, but it's really the only thing about Tennessee now is at least we'll see them on the road, and we'll see them against a good, maybe not great team. So I would expect if Tennessee holds up its part of the bargain, the hype on Tennessee will be ratcheted up dramatically after Saturday night in Norman.
I mean, how much extra interest do you have in that one, Paul, just because of all the tentacles that are involved in it? We had plenty of time to talk about that actually late in the game Saturday night, but just kind of interested in your thoughts of everything else that goes into college football. We love it, but this is one that, from a talking point standpoint, I mean, it's almost never ending with everything that's going into this game this weekend.
No, and for Heupel, most of you know the backstory, but having spent a lot of time in Norman recently, as you have, Cole, it's really a complicated history. When you think about what Heupel did for that program, and then when he was shown the door, these things happen. It was a brutal breakup. I expect Heupel to handle it extremely well Saturday and leading into the game or beginning today. But those fans in Norman are a little shell shocked right now. I know they were able to bounce back a little bit, but I think they feel a big loss coming, and that is not really where they want to be playing their first SEC game.
Absolutely.
Paul, last question.
Go ahead,
Paul,
Greg.
last question right now. And I just feel like you're the only one that can appropriately answer this, and I'm sure there will be an article written about your response, but I'm just curious. The Big Ten right now, whether you like it or not, they do get propped up. But so far, we've seen an Ohio State team that appears to be dominant. I'm a believer. We've seen an Oregon team that kind of sleptwalked at the first 2 games, finally got their first full performance. We saw a Penn State team that was trailing at halftime to Bowling Green. We've seen Arkansas. We've seen Iowa lose to Iowa State. A lot of people thought they were a playoff contender. We saw Michigan get blasted last week and look lethargic against both Fresno and Arkansas State. People thought they were a playoff contender. I think SC looks good, but they play Michigan next week. When people are starting to clamor for Nebraska as a playoff contender, I'm like, well, let's calm down a little bit. What next? Indiana as a playoff contender? So where is the Big Ten right now as it relates to kind of the supremacy argument in the sport?
I don't think it's anywhere in the conversation because of what you laid out. I think it's pretty much about Ohio State. Oregon is a program in waiting. So I mean, we're whether Urban Meyer is right or Rob Stone, I don't know. But so far through 3 weeks, it's been about the SEC, and I think it's going to continue to be, especially because of the SEC Big Ten matchup. By the way, I appreciate you asking me about the Big Ten and not Billy Napier. I was more than happy to.
We already know where that's going.
Yeah.
But honestly, Paul, honestly, what are you waiting for, though? I mean, apparently it's not going to happen yesterday or today. So, like, what is the holdup?
Yeah.
Is it not having an interim?
I don't know what the answer to that question is. All I can say is what I felt and what I sensed, and this is even before the game. I mean, we had students behind us chanting, "We want Lane." I talked to a number of students Saturday morning prior to the game who had already bailed out on Billy Napier, and at 20-0 at halftime. I can't imagine anyone down there believing that it's going to work out. And quite frankly, I don't really care that what Scott Strickland does or the president. That's their decision. All I know is that Billy Napier, like him or not, and most people do, has been a complete and total failure. It's not working. It's not going to work. Every day that he remains there is another day lost on the recruiting trail. It's another day lost on building optimism, and that's in spite of all the stuff I heard about Lagway going into the game from everybody who had a voice. So whether it's today or next week, or it will happen, Billy Napier is not coming back as the Florida head coach.
Paul, I just want to commend you for walking around campus before SEC Nation, talking to the student body on a weekly basis. I thought that's pretty cool that you get out there and kind of get the tone of the students.
Does the student body is that like you got a conversation with Tebow? Like who was the student body?
I'll ask Greg, who spent 1 year on the show. Would you rather walk around aimlessly or listen to Tebow in the meeting?
It depends on where I'm walking. Gainesville, I might take Tebow, but I don't know. It just depends. Oxford, yeah, I'll go on a stroll for sure.
How early in the season it is depends on the sweat factor. If you're going to walk,
100%.
Hey, Paul, great stuff as always. We really appreciate the time, and see you here in a couple hours.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Paul Feinbaum joins us each and every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks, and the Billy Napier situation, one that we need to get to a little bit later in the show. Obviously. Not a great game for Florida, and just not an impressive performance. We'll talk about that one. We kind of glossed over the Auburn win over the weekend. Want to dial into that one and just give you a little bit more context into what we saw there and kind of what that one looked like. Before we go to break, G-Mac, tell our listeners about the Pants Store.
Pants Store is awesome. Game day headquarters. They also have those clear purses. I'm actually going to the Falcons game next Sunday. Good friend of mine is the OC, and it says on the ticket you need the clear purse. I'm like, well, good to know. If I had to have one, I'm going to the Pants Store to get it. They have a bunch of different options for you there as well.
I think you should get
one. Also
got.
I should. I'm gonna start carrying the clear briefcase into the games from now on as I go to work. Or a clear backpack. Hoka, New Balance, Western boots. Ladies, they have rompers for you. They have perfect dresses for you. And men, they have all the best polos, hats, quarter zips, famous brands like you would want. Cutter & Buck, Antigua, Gentile, Horn Legend, all the best stuff for game day. Whether you're Bama, whether you're Auburn, they have that stuff for you. If you want to buy that beautiful crimson, you can. If you want to buy that blue and orange, you can buy that as well. So go check it out at Pants Store. They are your game day headquarters. Just head on down to the Pants Store for all your game day needs.
We'll get to the blue and orange, talk Auburn Tigers, and a win over the weekend with a new quarterback next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Good stuff there from Paul Feinbaum. Always appreciate Paul stopping by, talking about his thoughts from over the weekend. There's a lot to get to. We didn't spend a lot of time on Auburn, so want to dive into that one. And we will get to your feedback. Greg and I are going to get into the game here for a moment first and just kind of let you know what we thought, what we saw. Seems to be, Greg, that the problems are solved now with Hank Brown in at quarterback.
Oh, it has to be. Clearly, I mean, it was Peyton Thorne that was holding him back. I don't know about you. I watched the game. Watched it yesterday. Was really eager to put it on. It was one of the first games I watched, and it would not normally be. But I thought the accuracy was very nice. I thought the first touchdown, the glance route to the left, perfectly thrown ball, bodied up the receiver. A couple of real nice deep balls. I think there's a lot to feel good about. And then the bad, he's clearly lacks a lot of athleticism and twitch, which is okay. It's not the end of the world. It's just you got to protect. And I don't think their offensive line is going to be able to, based on what I've seen against quality competition. I think the offensive line will struggle. So I am worried about him being statuesque. But I do think when he has time to release it and throw it, he throws a nice ball. And a catchable ball and a pretty accurate ball. So I think it was a really encouraging performance, but I am genuinely concerned about what happens when you're facing a Georgia pass rush, an Alabama pass rush, and a pass rush that could really force him off his spot and how that could have an impact on him getting the ball out. So that'd be my biggest fear, but all in all, it was a good first performance.
Get tailgate ready at Royal Automotive. My friends at Royal Automotive want to help you experience how car buying should be. 4 Royal-owned dealerships in one location. Selection and savings unmatched. Royal, only place to find. Over 19 unique truck and SUV options in one spot. Right now, get up to $14,000 off select 2024 GMC Sierra models. 0% for 60 months is back on 2024 Volkswagen Tiguan models. Or 0.99% financing on select Volvo XC40, XC60, and XC90 models. Go see my friends at Royal. They're going to help you get the best deal available. All offers valid through September 30th. Certain restrictions apply. Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia. Online, royalautomotive.net. Make Royal your first and last stop when car shopping. Remember, for every ride, there's Royal. I'm with you on a lot of the things with the Auburn performance. There are a couple of things that were a little bit more concerning to me. I think when you're going to spin forward as to what it's going to look like, what it's going to be, we'll take your calls, and I'll give you my thoughts next right here on McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning, 8:52 a.m. Monday, September 16th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Going to move on, talk some more Auburn football, give you our thoughts on just what that team looked like over the weekend. Before we move to that, Greg, and I'll give you my thoughts on what I saw. If you're looking to move inside your home, piece of furniture, looking to move into a different home, who should you call?
It'd be Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed to move, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also deliveries for furniture that you purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for your free quote. The website's CrockerMovingServices.com. It's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
You mentioned that the lack of athleticism, that's going to be a concern of mine moving forward, because you saw the backside of runs start to catch up with Damari Alston and Jarquez Hunter. And I did like the fact that Jarquez Hunter finally got going. I believe that was a career high in carries for him over the weekend. So you kind of get him going in the run game. When he gets going north and south, he's tough to manage, tough to deal with. And I thought it was good that you could do that. The accuracy, like you said, I thought it was good. I was interested to get your thoughts. The one deep ball down the sideline, beautifully placed, seemed to stay accurate on the run. Hank Brown did.
Really nicely placed. Like, couldn't have placed it better.
No, and I feel, from what my understanding is that, he has a little bit better. He's more liked in the locker room. I don't know how the hell else to say it. So we don't have to worry about being nice, I guess. And so I guess that gives him some advantages at the same time. But on some of the routes to the perimeter, a couple hitch routes, a couple out routes, felt kind of late to me. Like the ball getting there, not necessarily him throwing it late, but kind of late getting on the receivers, and some bang bang plays where corner's like right there, catch, and then corner tackle, corner make an attempt at football. Is that going to be a problem when they're not facing the 133rd worst defense in college football?
Yes. I think you can get rocked into a false sense of confidence based on this past weekend's performance. But like I said, I'm here to find the sliver of optimism. I think he showcased a level of accuracy that was big time. Now, could Peyton Thorne have made the throws that he made? Yeah, I think he probably could have. The downfield throw down the sideline with no bun in his lap. The pocket for the most part, on his accurate throws were pretty clean. I think the lack of mobility is going to hurt him, and that concerns me a little bit. I'm not saying you need to be able to have a guy like Lamar Jackson or Jalen Milroe. You don't have to have that guy, but this is like throwback statuesque. I'm trying to think of like a guy that I last saw that was this much. Just even when he moves in the pocket, it's a little slow. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a little sudden urgency with your moves and stuff like that. So, and they're not going to have a clean pocket. Like if they had a brick wall of an offensive line, then we're good. Let them stand back there and sling it. You know what I mean? But I don't trust the offensive line. I think the offensive line's subpar. So I am concerned about it, to be honest with you. But it's going to put a lot of emphasis on protection, and if they can get it, then I think he's got a real nice solid stroke and can deliver the ball accurately.
I hit a couple nice slants, and as we said, delivered the ball down the field. He showed he's got enough arm strength. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And you give him that game to go build some confidence and head into an Arkansas unit that UAB found a way to move the football against, but just couldn't close it out and get that win over the weekend. Speaking of Arkansas and UAB, we'll talk a little bit more about it throughout the course of the show, but was a strong performance for Trent Dilfer's Blazers as they had Arkansas on the ropes in Fayetteville for a while and couldn't close it out. Hogs come back, able to find a way to get that win and get to 2-1 on the season. 37-27 was the final. We'll give you more on that one, more on other games around the SEC. Tyler Watts coming up next hour. His thoughts on Camp Randall. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning, hour number 2, Monday, September 16th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Recapping week 3, just ran through kind of what we saw from Auburn, but the defense, Greg, something we didn't get into that did look a little bit problematic. And whether it was keeping contained, I do think that DJ played this a little bit different. Like Jalen McLeod off the ball a little bit more, but he actually made a couple nice plays as lined up as sort of a traditional linebacker. But he had a couple different players in some different places. I thought Keldrick Falk was great. I didn't think a lot of other guys up front did a lot that you would write home about. There were some contested balls down the field that Auburn wasn't able to win. The celebrating on 6 and 7 yard gains continues. But I didn't think it was a strong performance by the Auburn defense.
I thought it was a really subpar performance. I thought they lacked. I can live with being beat on physical plays. For instance, you throw a ball that, is a 50-50 ball and a guy goes up and makes the catch, but you have good coverage, you're in phase, you play it right, you time your jump right, and the guy makes a play, right? Like, there's a big difference between giving up a 50-yard completion like that and a 50-yard completion in which there's not an Auburn defender within 10 yards because their eyes are in the backfield. I thought and don't get me wrong, I think New Mexico's quarterback's kind of a handful now. Like, he's a little unpredictable. He's super sporadic. He can run around and create and buy time, and that puts a lot of pressure on the secondary to stay disciplined and to stay in coverage. And they didn't do that very well. I was really disappointed with that. I thought there were way too many big plays given up. I thought their rush lanes were substandard. I just thought defensively it was one of the more disappointing performances. All you got to do with a group like that, like, just rally up and make the play. Like, you're the better team. Don't give up the big play. Keep them in front of you. And then when the guy crosses the line of scrimmage, rally up and make the play. And if he gains 9 yards on a quarterback scramble, so be it. At least you didn't give up the 60-yard completion. So I thought it was a little disappointing. I really did. And I think that there's a lot to clean up, but I trust DJ Durkin and his staff defensively to get those things situated. I thought Falk had a nice game. There were individuals that played well, but I just thought all in all, putting a big bow on top of the defensive performance, it was about a C- performance defensively.
Anything stick out to you from Eugene Asante in this game? Because I've had people go on both sides of Eugene Asante so far at Auburn, and I actually feel like he's made some plays. And I think there's some other folks that feel like he kind of hasn't really been there.
Are people down on him?
A little bit, which I was a little bit surprised on. So I thought he did a couple of nice things. I thought Kerryon Crawford, who once again was off the ball at times, but then on the ball, I thought he was somebody who kind of played in what they were asking him to do and did a pretty good job. But there were a couple of performances in this game individually that, I'm not infuriated by film very often, but there was one individual on Auburn's defense that it would have. I'm honestly not sure how I would have handled it if I was coaching on that side of the ball. It would have been bad.
I know how I would have handled it. Hey,
he wouldn't be out there again. I tell you that.
I'm about to say, hey, buddy, this is called the Pine Pony. Go take a ride. Like, he wouldn't have been out there. I mean, and we don't need to single anybody out, but like, you don't. I haven't even talked, and I know exactly where you're going with if I could have graded the performance, which I didn't, it would have been among the lower grades I've had as far as effort, as far as just playing through the whistle. Like, it was, man, we didn't even talked about it, but dude, that stood out to me.
Well, let me just say this. I know everybody's probably seen like the high school clip of the kid playing corner, and they run the toss to his side, and he kind of runs up, and then he like olays him to the right and like throws his arms up in the air and gets out of the way. You damn near had that from an individual in this game, where just kind of running up and completely avoiding contact with the ball carrier. And then another time on a pressure, running into the backfield where you have the green light to just absolutely dent somebody's face mask.
Done.
just chooses to
Clean them out.
And turn and run the other way and act confused. Now, young football player, I will say that. But by God, I don't care how old you are. There's one thing you can do, and that's sprint towards who's carrying the football. Or you know what? Even someone who's not carrying the football and knock the hell out of them. That's one thing you're allowed to do. Last time I checked in football. So that was disappointing, man. Like you
There's
you
some
can't,
ways for sure.
and it's just, I know that part to me, and I agree with you. You had an athletic quarterback, and I think that's where DJ was going by saying, I'm going to take some of my more athletic players who, if I need them to come to the line of scrimmage and do some things, they can. If I need them to be able to sort of float or roam and play in space, I think that can get away with it. But I'm a little bit beefier by doing that. So when the pocket moves or the pocket rolls or a lot of the quick game, I'll have maybe a bigger, more physical presence to be able to utilize. And then on my pressures, I actually have pass rushers on the field. So we'll sort of mix and match, because he got back to 4 down more times than I think some people believe, even though they played 3 down most of the game. That's what I think, like trying to put myself in his brain, what he was doing, because I think he knew, all right, they're going to spread us out, but it's not like they're going to sit in the pocket and challenge us down the field. I'm not super worried about that. A lot of quick stuff, a lot of perimeter stuff. So let's get those bodies on the field in a little bit of a different way. Now, I know sometimes you'd like to see those two just teeing off and rushing the passer, but is that super advantageous against that player? Probably not, because like we said, he's going to get the ball out, number one. Number two, he's going to leave the pocket either on his own or by design. So then you have those players there to be able to mix, match, do different things with. That's kind of how I saw it. I did think Jaron Thompson at safety did a lot of good things. He missed a couple things, but did some good things. And at least physicality was not a problem for him.
Like,
yeah, physicality is not a problem for him. Like, he'll hit you. Not afraid to hit.
He'll do that. Now, I think he's suspect in coverage, and that goes back to last year. I have not seen a whole lot of progress that being made there. I think he's a little tight in his hips, but he'll come downhill, and I can appreciate that. Like, I don't need a guy that is Ed Reed in the back end. Like, okay, yeah, it'd be great to have Malachi Starks at safety. Fine, I don't. But I need a guy that can at least be a bit of a tone setter. And while Jaron Thompson might give up some as far as flipping his hips and, in quarters and being able to get out underneath and on top of the post, sure, yeah, I'm not sure he can do that. But I'll tell you what, in run support, when he triggers it, you can feel him. Like, you see him coming, and he might get got a couple times, but you're going to feel him. So
I'll take that. I
respect how he plays. You know what I mean? Like, I can live with that.
100%. I'm with you, and I feel like, he helps bring a little more physical presence, and you don't often get that from the safety position. I think you get it from Austin Keys a little bit at linebacker. Like, when he's able to get downhill, he will thump you. He's not afraid to. But same thing. Is he going to take a bad angle every now and then because he's probably more worried about trading paint? Yeah, but that's all right. I mean, you need tone setters, and unfortunately, there's not a ton of them on this group, but the ones that are out there at least do it on a consistent basis, and I think we're going to be able to help move them forward. So we do want to get to your feedback as well on the game. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX if you want to get in. You can always tweet into the show at Mac and Cube. Best way to be a part there. You can also text into the show if you need to do that. Rich has been patient and wants to chime in on the Buyers Right Hotline. Yeah. Welcome into the show, Rich.
What's up, guys?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, I never thought or anything about everything being all fixed when Hank Brown was named the starting quarterback. I watched that game for the second time last night, and I do agree with a lot of what you said, McElroy. He is too stand-up-ish for, I think, Hugh Freeze liking. I don't think it would – that's not a long-term fix. I think that's a short-term fix. Considering next year Peyton won't be there, I think he's kind of trying to see what he may have for next year. I do agree with the defensive statements saying that there are issues. And what kind of surprised me is Durkin was brought in to be a little bit more aggressive on that end. Now, the last 2 games, we haven't seen it now. I will say that the quarterback for Mexico State, he was legit. I mean, they did try to get some pressure on him, and he's just too good of a running quarterback and got out of a lot of the pressure that I saw coming up the side, or when they did get in the backfield, especially that one time where he ran around the end and he's dodging all these players and ended up almost picking up a first down. I mean, that reminded me a little bit of Lamar Jackson, a little bit, not 100%, but a little bit. But
No,
and then
he's
our
got some of that.
secondary-
Like that kid's, and I remember watching
some
him week
juice.
0. I really like him. I think he actually has a nice little release too. Like it's his mechanics are pretty good. You know what I mean? Like he's got I think that kid's got a really high ceiling. So just between us here, you, me, and Rich, Cole, nobody else is listening.
Got it.
I would make note of that kid. If in fact portal time ever comes around, he might be a guy worth taking a little peek at.
Okay. We will.
Just saying. Him
will
and the guy at Virginia,
okay,
Anthony Calandria, are my
Putting-
two little like. All right,
Putting
hey,
New Mexico on weekly
yes.
film.
Go ahead and
list.
put
Not New
Dampier
Mexico
and
State,
put.
New Mexico.
Yes, not New
weekly
Mexico
film
State.
list to watch. Got it. Because
Okay,
up
take
until
Dampier
1:30
and
last
take
night,
Anthony
just to get the
Calandria.
SEC film in was not enough. So now we will get that done.
Well, no, I'm
By
just
the way,
saying.
let
I'm
me just say
saying,
something real quick, Greg.
I-
I need to get to week 5 worse than I need oxygen right now.
No,
These 14, 16, 15 game weekends are literally going to kill me. I mean, it is. I mean, I'm sitting here yesterday in this hotel. All I do yesterday is walk on the treadmill and watch film and sit in my hotel room and watch film. And all of a sudden I look up and it's 6 o'clock at night and have like 5 more games. It's 9 o'clock at night and have 3 more games. And I'm just like, how am I not further down the list here?
what games
I don't
are taking
understand.
you an hour and a half each? Is my question. You had 5 at 6 and you have 3 at 9.
My numbers are out of whack. Okay, I've had 3 pre-4 o'clock wake up calls since Friday or 2, and don't think I've been to bed before midnight other than Friday night. So yeah, and on top of that, had one of the more competitive games in league history Saturday night. So, but you know what? I did get to interview 9-year-old Camp Mays in the third quarter of the game. So if you want something to go see, that's what we had going on the SEC Network Saturday night as Tennessee just completely steamrolled Kent State, who is every bit as bad as you think they might be.
Oh,
And by the way,
don't.
thanks to Tennessee, has now overtaken New Mexico for the worst defense in college football.
Oh, boy.
So Auburn fans, you should be thanking Josh Heupel and company for keeping their foot on the gas for 2 quarters, not 3, not 3.5. Literally 2 quarters. They kept their foot on the gas for. I know you saw that score and said, "Man, they kept scoring in the fourth quarter, didn't they?" Or they really kept their foot on the gas. They were going after them. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. They shut it down literally with multiple minutes left in the second quarter after they put up 37 in the first, 28 in the second. EMI Lava, 10 of 16, 173 yards, a touchdown. Gaston Moore came in 4 for 4 through 2 touchdowns. Tennessee ran for 456 yards, by the way, Greg. 6 touchdowns on the ground.
I thought this was
Josh
the
Heupel's
last segment of the
second
day.
400 rushing yard. Well, you know what? It probably should be, but it's also an SEC game,
Yeah.
so we talk about it in prime time here. It usually gets this real estate, but holy mother.
Cole, if it makes you feel better, there are only 10 games this weekend.
It does, but next week there's 6.
Correct,
and
yes.
Yeah, there we
that, will be that will be a blessing from God when we get
Cole,
to
do
that
you need
weekend.
me to watch a game for you?
No, I
because
don't want your
now
eyes
have
on my
Clemson-
games. I don't trust
I
your
have
eyes on my
Clemson
games.
for the second time in 4 weeks.
You know who you would love? Do you know who you would love, Greg McElroy? I'm going to tell you who would be your best friend in life right now. Is the freaking film guy at Kent State University. You want to know why? You know
Why?
what Kent State didn't have of their first 2 games?
The all 22.
Oh, that's all they had.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
There was no tight copy.
No tie.
You know what else? You know what else we had on a screenplay or a quick throw to the left on the 7 or 8 plays that we did find tight copy for? A camera that stayed right in the middle of the field on the logo.
So
Gotta be
how did
kidding
you not have time to get all the other games in if this went this quick?
You know what? I probably could have started on some of the other ones here. Should have asked them to flip my my monitor on the field over to Kentucky and Georgia.
Oh, boy.
But I will say, fun environment.
You should have had him take the audio of Kentucky-Georgia game. You don't need to watch it. Just listen.
Just listen to the picture
of the Mac and Mac crew. Mac.
Dylan Sampson, 13 for 101, 4 rushing touchdowns. Deshaun Bishop, 7 for 120, 2 rushing touchdowns.
All right. In all seriousness, like, it's hard to put a lot of stock into your game, but in a very simple, and I know we're up against it, in a very simple, concise evaluation of seeing them in person. I know that they're appropriately rated at 7, but how do they match up against the likes of the best teams in the sport? Like, because right now, according to the AP, they are the 6th best team in the SEC. I don't know if I completely agree with that. Based on what I've seen, I think they're slightly better, but I'm also cognizant of the teams they've played against, and I just don't know if they've been challenged yet. And with all due respect to NC State, I'm not sold. So how good are they after seeing them in person?
I will answer that question, and we will kind of give you our rankings of SEC teams next on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Trying to find my zen during the break by focusing in on the tight copy of a certain game.
Did you say Zen or
Correct.
Zen?
Z-E-N.
No,
not
you are
Z-Y-N.
on the Zen.
Yeah.
I
need
quit
my
the Zen.
What's the
quit
difference?
One costs money.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah,
In
that's it.
pronunciation, what's the difference?
Oh, there is none.
No.
Zen or Zen?
Zen versus
Zen or Zen? Zen or
It's a
Zen?
little different.
Zen? Zen.
Zen.
I guess you have talking see Zen, but I don't want a pack of Zen. I guess maybe that's the difference.
Wow. Probably
Living
right
in
on.
a Zan down by the river. I don't know. What is the? It all sounds the same to me.
Sure. Listen. I just wanted you to know that if you're ever going to watch some random film, that Kent State's not going to give you the tight copy, and that'd probably make you happy. So about as happy as your HVAC system will. For the cold months coming ahead, you're going to need it. One of your largest investments. This time of year, constantly being pushed to the extreme. You can trust a Trane home comfort system to give you reliability and peace of mind day in, day out for years to come. Visit Trane.com to find a comfort specialist near you. And remember, it's hard to stop a train. So I said that I would let certain folks respond. And obviously, I hogged a little bit of that time by discussing some frustration from over the weekend. So we'll get back to it now. Let's go to Jeremiah and talk college football. Jeremiah, what's on your mind today?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing okay,
buddy?
Jeremiah.
I wanted to get back to the Wisconsin and the Alabama. Greg was commenting on the defense having an excellent performance.
I said that?
Yeah.
No, I think it was a fine performance. I don't know yet about the defense. I just don't know yet. I'm optimistic. I think they have a chance. I'm really worried about the Quay Rousseau injury. I just don't think they've played a quarterback or a passing attack that has challenged them. I've seen some guys running open, which concerns me, and I think against better competition, those guys might get hit. But I think that you should feel good about it. I'm encouraged by the opportunistic play. They've gotten some balls on the ground. They've intercepted a couple passes. So I think there's reasons for optimism, but at this point, it's still an unanswered question.
Yeah, I agree with you on that because I was seeing a lot of missed tackles where they weren't wrapping up. I was seeing the defensive line get pushed around a little bit, get out of their lanes. And I just see this not working against the Georgia game coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's why it's concerning to me.
Well, here's the thing I would say. One, I think Georgia's beat up right now. And they're going to need some guys to get healthy. And they have a bye week. Georgia's defensive line is a question mark right now. I'm going to be honest with you. As crazy as that sounds, they're without three of their top guys along the defensive line. Two of the three, I think, are legitimate difference makers. Okay, I think Georgia's secondary is still a question mark. At this point, I still think they're a question mark. I think they got elite pass rushers that can make life very difficult for you if you get off schedule. But I think this Alabama team is very, very comfortable running the quarterback and keeping you off balance. I don't think you can get super aggressive rushing Jalen because he will now take off and run with it. So I'm really optimistic there. My biggest question mark in 2 weeks will be Georgia's passing attack against Alabama's secondary in the event in which Bama's offensive line can't apply or defensive line can't apply pressure. That's been our big question marks, right? Coming into the season, who's going to be the edge rusher? Who's going to be the defensive lineman that can take over the game? Is there one? And if there's not, are there ways of scheming defensive linemen open in the pass rush? And then two, the secondary. You got a couple freshmen that are playing pivotal snaps against veteran wide receivers for Georgia and a veteran fifth-year quarterback. So that's the big question mark in a couple weeks. I'm optimistic with what I've seen from the defense, and frankly, I'm not sold on Georgia right now and their passing attack. There was something missing on Saturday. There's a lot of horizontal. There's a lot of stuff where they're trying to get catch and runs. And I'm not there yet with them right now. I'm just not. I think their running backs are excellent, but I think there's room for growth in their passing game on the intermediate and the downfield. So,
But Carson Beck separated himself, Greg, by challenging the middle of the field. And I know a lot of that was with Brock Bowers, but that's where, in my opinion, he sort of really elevated last year. And like you
but
said,
they don't
not
have
seeing a
that
lot
big
of that.
body wide receiver that can go across the middle right now. That's the problem. Like I'm just going to be real with you. I would feel a lot more comfortable challenging the middle of the field with a 6'3" or 6'2", or let's just say a 6'2" and change wide receiver that has some height where if I throw it high, he can go up and get it. And Brock Bowers was that guy. I have yet to see Oscar Delp run anything over the middle of the field that makes me feel good about it. I've yet to see Lawson Lucky, their tight end, work the middle of the field. I'd have yet to see it. And I don't feel great about Dominic Lovett on anything other than a shallow cross. Like, you can run post overs, you can run stuff like that, but the middle of the field is where you need length at wide receiver. And they don't have great length outside of Colby Young. Colby Young has length, but he's a typical X. He's your typical put him outside, win your one-on-ones X receiver. So I don't know who that guy is this year, Cole. I don't know if their offense is built to exploit the middle of the field the way it was last year.
I got a couple questions for you on the Georgia defense. You mentioned it, like Warren Brinson out, which is big. He's been playing really well this year. He's been there forever, 97. They're going to need him. Stackhouse just gets his shoulders turned too often. Like the pad level, it was amazing. And I don't know if you noticed it in person, how different that defense was in the first half and the second half. First half, not a lot of missed tackles. Ball carries open field, got him to the ground. Defensive line, shoulder square, strike shed. Second half, diving at ankles, arm tackles, D tackles, shoulders turned, getting out of gaps. It was just very different. I think Georgia really fortunate to win that game based on what I saw defensively and how different it was. The difference is 10 and 11 and 5 for Georgia's defense. Holy man,
dude!
Those guys are gonna make up for a lot.
11's unbelievable. Like, dude, we setting up the end of the game situation. It's like, all right, watch 11 here. Like, he's gonna end this game. You just knew he was gonna end the game. You know what I mean? It's like, this guy is just, he had to have had 5 or 6 quarterback hits in the game. Had to have.
And and most of them timely, like right when they needed them. But here's a question that I have for you. And I love this kid. I've loved him for 2 years now, because when he would get in games late in games, all he would do is just go try to punish people. Like, no regard for where the football was. He just wanted to crack somebody's helmet. How is Gabe Harris, an outside linebacker, playing 3 technique now for Georgia?
What number?
29.
Oh, he had a.
He is an edge defender, Greg.
Rushes.
They're playing him at 3 technique.
He had a forced fumble.
Oh, no. Listen, I love the kid, but like he's playing over the guard for people that don't know what the 3 technique is in the game. I'm sitting there thinking, this is an edge guy. And I guess it's just because of some of the numbers and whatnot. But like, I was impressed.
They have 3 guys going up front defensively, and one of them's a freshman. Like, in the D tackle. Like, they are painfully thin. Georgia. Yes, Georgia. That Georgia. It's painfully thin along the defensive line. It's crazy to think about, and I do feel like I'm in an upside down world, and I feel it's very strange. But yeah, Gabe Harris is 260 pounds, and they'll slide him inside a little bit, but not a ton. Like, they have 94 Xavier McLeod, they have 52 Christian Miller, and they have 78 Nasir Stackhouse. They also have 56, who's a true freshman. They have 55, who will get in there some, who's a sophomore, true sophomore. They just don't have depth along the defensive line. I mean, Chaz Chambliss has to play 1 million snaps. Yeah, and Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, number 93, has got to play 1 million snaps. Like, over the course of the season, that's going to take its toll.
It's going to add up. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. But still have difference makers out there. Like you said, Jalen Walker.
No doubt they got difference makers. But, dude, you can't be a difference maker for 67 snaps in the game. You can't. Like, I don't care who you are. Even the guy with the best, the most in-shape defensive lineman in the history of defensive linemen can't play 60-plus snaps. Just can't.
It's fair. All right, we'll get to a break. When we come back, Tyler Watts on the call for Alabama's game at Wisconsin. He'll share his thoughts on the environment, the scene, and what he thought of the actual football next right here on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning, 9:33 a.m. where I am, 8:33 where you are, Monday, September 16th on Jocks 94.5. Tyler Watts, former Alabama quarterback, going to join us now and do something that I actually despise. And I'm going to give him a lot of credit for doing it because I will not have a conversation sitting on an airplane on the phone. I refuse to do it. I won't do it. My wife knows when she calls me and I'm on the plane, like it won't happen. So, Tyler, I appreciate it. Kind of toughing it out here for us. Start with this. Just your overall impressions of Camp Randall, the game day experience. What was it like?
Look, I ain't gonna lie. I thought it was really cool. Student section kind of showed up a little bit late, but the buzz in that town, honestly, all week long was they. And this is coming from their radio guy, their color analyst, who played a lot of years. He goes, "We kind of have an inferiority complex when it comes to playing some of the bigger name schools. So nobody really thinks we're going to win, but we're optimistic." But that really didn't deter the atmosphere. It's a cool stadium, a lot of history. You can really tell how, if they're competitive, that place could be buzzing.
It was awesome on TV. And then as soon as Jump Around was over, it looked like it was honestly a race to the bars. I don't know if that's accurate, but it looked like as soon as Jump Around finished up, they could not be in a more of a rush to get out of there. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, it's accurate, and everyone anticipated that would be the case. Now, granted, the game was over at that point; they had no chance of really doing anything. But yeah, they vacated the premises awfully quick, and it was a great crowd that Alabama brought up. You really couldn't tell though because everybody's wearing red and white. But there in the fourth quarter, you knew exactly how many Alabama fans were. So that's about all that was left.
We're crimson.
Former Alabama quarterback joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Greg and I talked a little bit earlier how it feels like this offense kind of rounding into form, finding its identity a little bit with more designed quarterback runs. I appreciate a little bit more of the downhill run game in this one. The offensive line kind of finally what we thought we'd see at the beginning of the year. What did you like from what you saw on the Alabama offense Saturday?
Well, I think is what you kind of anticipated. Could you run the ball? You should be able to run the ball, and they were able to run the football. When you saw South Dakota and Western Michigan getting chunk yards on the ground, you kind of felt that, hey, let's don't be greedy and try to throw it around if we don't have to. But I liked how they, you're right. It's a three-headed monster back there right now with Justice Haynes, Jam Miller, and Jalen Milroe, and all three of them are capable. And you try to be balanced as you can, put his things on film. But you love the dominance. I thought Proctor Caden looked good, diving around the ground, didn't seem to have any issues. Elijah Pritchett did well at the right tackle position. So hopefully it's all going to come together if we can just keep guys healthy as they start to kind of learn who they were. And remember, we talked about this. Coaches really don't know what they have until the third or fourth game because not enough practice time. They got to see how guys develop, react, and play together, and then they kind of start learning who they are.
What do you make of the move and the adjustment? Felt like last year's staff went kind of above and beyond towards trying to make Jalen into a pocket passer. And this staff is like, nah, we're good. We're going to just run him. That's what he does best. We're just going to run him. We're going to really feature his legs. We're going to do a lot of called runs. Most will be on the perimeter. We're not going to run him that often between the tackles, but we're going to get him out in space and just let him go. And it feels like it's been very difficult for the first three opponents to defend. Not surprised. But it also feels like it's really playing into his strengths. So how much more can we anticipate from that? And is that kind of where this offense is going?
Well, I'd start with this, though. How much of that was the coaching staff from last year and this year versus Jalen finally accepting that role, that makes him a well-rounded, better quarterback, and it helps his passing game by utilizing his legs and breaking the defense down. And I think he started realizing that in the second half of the season last year. Now he has accepted the fact that's a part of his game. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of guys in the NFL making a lot of money doing it, playing the game that way, and they're being extremely effective. I think it's going to continue to be something because it gives Georgia fits with that defense, a mobile quarterback that can run. It's what beat them in the SEC championship game last year. So you have to continue to build on that without running that horse too hard and wearing him down because you cannot – you have a good backup in Ty Simpson. but you're not the same offense. It's a different style that you would have to take a week or two to kind of relearn how to move the ball down the field.
Tyler Watts joining us from an airplane, talking Alabama, Wisconsin on Saturday. Defensively, what were your thoughts? I felt like the D-line was more disruptive, and you had a couple. I mean, it was like 22 was like it was close to a takeover game. Saw 50 do some really nice things inside. What did you think of the Alabama front?
Well, the point of emphasis was takeaways all week long. They were disappointed they didn't get any. They put the ball on the ground 4 times, had an opportunity for another interception that Keon Sabb dropped. But 2 takeaways. They were disruptive up front. And once again, I don't know as much about offensive line play. Some of the stunt packages that they were doing were obviously giving that offensive line fits. And look, it's not necessarily a great offensive line, but it's not a bad one either. They had done a pretty good job in protection all year long. But that front 4, front 5, as they were filling in there, did a really good job, especially after they started kind of figuring out the offense. You remember the first couple drives, Wisconsin was move the ball, and then it really slowed down.
All right, well, let's let him run. Greg, he's on an airplane. Let's just let him go. He's fine. Tyler, you've done more than enough already. Like, I wouldn't have done what you've done, so I appreciate it. We appreciate you.
And I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. And
you don't owe us any apologies. You're talking in front of random people that are sitting next to you, wondering what are you doing? Like, why is he talking so loud?
Well,
so I get it.
Considering where I put where me and Greg put our hands for 4 years in front of 100,000 people, this ain't nothing.
Nowadays they don't have to say that because they're in shotgun every play. So appreciate it, Tyler.
Hey, thank y'all.
All right, Tyler Watts joining us there on the Buyers Right hotline. We'll kind of finish up, though, Greg, just with a couple of his thoughts on just sort of what he saw, what he liked. Defensively, I mean, it sounds like, I don't know, we had a caller a little bit earlier. Is he frustrated with the secondary? I don't know. I didn't see secondary problems. I did see what Tyler's discussing, though, with some of the movement up front, like some of the run stunts and whatnot. And actually, I thought that was a reason late, and I'm not talking big runs like 40 or 50, but some of the chunk runs like 6, 8, 10, those were some of the reasons that Wisconsin even busted a couple runs a little bit late because just guys couldn't gap replace fast enough and they're running a few different stunts. But they also gave Alabama a lot of advantages early. That's kind of the hit and miss that you take with some of that stuff. But I felt pretty good about the defense's performance.
I think you should. I mean, I thought it was a fine performance in this case. But then again, at what point did you feel like Braden Locke was capable of exploiting what you can be in the back end?
I did.
I mean, you want to talk about deer in headlights. Like, oh boy. So it's hard to gather a whole lot from it, to be honest. But at the same time, I mean, they did what they needed to do. I still see guys open. Now, can the throws to the guys that are open be made consistently by college quarterbacks? Probably not. Probably not whatsoever, to be honest with you. I think Carson Beck can make those throws. I think Quinn Ewers can make those throws. I think Cam Ward can make those throws. So that's I think the thing that I'm just anxious to see is when they play against a quarterback that's actually capable, will they be able to maintain coverage for 60 minutes in the game and not give up big plays? So that's my only question mark. And hey, it's all good.
Let's go to Mark in Coleman. Wants to talk some college football as we'll continue to get your feedback this hour. Welcome in, Mark.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's kind of weighing on me over the weekend too, and I think you made reference to it earlier when you were talking about the celebration after the 6-7 yard play. So, I guess my question is, if guys like myself see that, you mentioned it, you're a lot more involved and experienced than I am, but does anybody in film rooms address that, a coach, a captain, or because it kind of looks bad, I don't know. I'm not sure why we celebrate, an off tackle that goes for 11 yards and we make a tackle. And how is that a celebration, I guess is my question.
You're going to get two different sides of this, Mark. You're going to get people that say football's a game and football's fun and they're getting to play college football and they should be excited and they should be happy. But I never thought on defense 2nd and 8 was a win. I mean, I never thought 2nd and 2 was a W. Like I didn't chalk that up as a victory. That'd basically be like me saying, we ran the ball and we got 1 yard. Well, we didn't lose 2 yards, so yeah, it's a win. That wasn't a win for us. So I do think coaches probably try to talk about it, but I mean, that's probably an area that they choose to pick their battles intelligently, Greg, because you got to be careful with how you coach today. And if that's what you're going to have to give up, probably to coach some other things out of somebody, that's probably the one that you'd sacrifice.
Yeah, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time worrying about it. It's just not that big a deal. Like you said, celebrate, do what you want, make it fun for the players. I'm sure a lot of coaches don't want to listen to music at practice either, but they feel like they need to because that's what the players want.
It's annoying, though, when you look up and it's 2nd and 2, and a guy looks like he won the Super Bowl. You're just like, what?
It drives me bananas. Like, it's after every first down, we got a point. It's like, oh my gosh, like it drives me bananas. But
down
like,
17.
Dude, here's the thing that blows my mind. Like there's some things that warrant celebration, right? And then there's some things where it's like, okay, you did what you were supposed to do. Terrific, great job. You know what I mean? It's like always blown my mind. It's like, oh, are you gonna go to like when Vince graduated from pre-K? It's like, let's have a graduation party. I was like, for graduating pre-K? Like, aren't you supposed to do that? Like, isn't that a rite of passage? You know what I mean? Like when Billy Madison had a party every time he passed a grade, is that supposed to be celebrated? Like, you got a first down. Are we celebrating that? Like, celebrate the touchdown by all means. I'm all about that. Punt it into the dang stands for all I care. But celebrating a first down feels like a bridge too far. Not that I'm not trying to be the old man yelling at clouds, but like doing your job does not warrant celebration, I suppose.
I think the bigger question there, Greg, would be, were there individuals who did not graduate pre-K?
I'd really like to know.
Because I would assume if you're celebrating the graduation, then that would be a celebration of not having to deal with the failure of not finishing pre-K.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's like,
it's
it's like having a college graduation party. It's like, hang on a second. So you went to college and graduated. That's amazing. Congratulations. That's amazing. What was the other option? You spending thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars and not graduating? What was the other option? Like, you know what I mean? Like high school, I kind of get, that's a huge achievement to graduate high school. But man, if you go to college and don't graduate, that's a problem. You know what I mean? That's just wasted money, is it not?
You would think so. All right, a couple more of you on hold. We'll get to you when we come back as we continue to take feedback this hour. Talk more college football. McElroy Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You can listen online, jocksfm.com. App is in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download it for free. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill. You can always tune in that way. Be Him Dog was on hold through the break. He wants to chime in on some college football. Welcome in, Dog.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, I don't have a real good fuzzy feeling about this upcoming game in 2 weeks. Outside of a win on the road, I didn't hardly take anything positive away from the Georgia-Kentucky game. It's the first time in a long time that I looked across the line of scrimmage, both line of scrimmage, and saw men that were just bigger than us. Kentucky was massive, and I know we're fixing to face some even bigger men that probably have higher star ratings, in the next couple of weeks. But my question is, Greg, you were there. I don't complain about officiating too much. I hardly ever, but I'm going to complain about officiating. The call on Jalen Walker on the roughing the passer was absolutely ridiculous. The ball was literally almost in his hands when he made that tackle. He didn't force him to the ground. So that's my soapbox there. But I do want to ask you this, Greg.
Well, you heard what I said, right? Like I said, it didn't look like much to me. I mean, it looked like he arrived at the right time. Like when I hear the driving him to the ground, it's like he drives him down with all of his body weight. His body's airborne while the quarterback's flat on his back. Like that to me warrants a roughing the passer. That one to me didn't. I didn't see it.
I just don't know what a 245-pound man running full speed is supposed to do at that point.
But there's that's what I was going to say, Dog, is when I hear that flag, to me, it's you had the option to not do what you did. And at that point, there is no option. You're tackling an individual. He's going down to the ground. Like that's it. You don't tackle somebody in mid-air, all of a sudden barrel roll off of them and not land on top. Like it's not physically possible.
But you can tell the difference. The guys that at least like try to make the effort, like he tackled him around the waist, perfectly formed tackle.
Head to the side.
Head to the side. Tackled him normal. Like because Vandegrift hit hard doesn't mean it should be a flag. Like we've gotten too far away. Like don't get me wrong. Like you go clothesline the guy by all means. But it was a perfectly fair and legal play. Like I just thought it was way too much, and it was a big call because I mean Vandegrift was backed up. Like it was a big play potentially in the game.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let me ask you this, Greg, and I'll hang up and listen to you. I think we've lost Tate Ratledge for some extended time, and that is huge. 30-start guy, preseason All-American. But if we can get Mikael Williams and Warren Brinson back, and I'm hoping, I think those guys could have probably played this game. Probably wish they would have. With the 2 weeks to prepare, what kind of difference is that going to make on the Georgia defensive line with adding those two guys back? And I'll hang up and listen, guys.
I think it's massive. I thought that you could tell that Georgia was kind of gassed in the second half. I mean, the run fits, the tackling, all things like the line of scrimmage, like Kentucky was able to move the ball. And that's not something that's super common, just running it right up the gut against Georgia Bulldogs. So I think it's massive to get Mikael back. I think Warren Brinson's your best defensive lineman. Getting him back's huge. Getting Jordan Hall healthy at some point, he's probably not going to be back for a little bit longer, but that'd be big. And even some of the guys that are now filling in, like Xavier McLeod was out most of camp. I mean, I think they're thin along the defensive line, and that's not a good place to be when playing against Alabama because Alabama can wear you out along the front. So I think that's going to be huge and one that I'll be watching real closely here in a couple weeks.
You think about Williams, Craig, and just his length, athleticism, what he does on the edge on a team that's probably going to have a lot of those read plays, going to work the mesh some, and going to have a quarterback get on the perimeter. Brinson, physicality inside probably allows you to play fewer numbers in there at times if you want to. Or if that offensive line, continues to get going, they're going to be able to push people based on what I saw. I mean, like I said, that was the most physical game Proctor has played in an Alabama uniform. Booker is Booker, man. Like he does his thing. Like he did his thing at left tackle. He does his thing at left guard. Like that's every game for him. It's not. I don't watch him roll people or whatever the little butt block technique he tried to do, falling over somebody, which was hilarious. or, looking for work in pass pro. Every single game. It's all the time. That's why he's my favorite player in college football right now. But I'm telling you, Brailsford, man, like that was we are seeing a different Parker Brailsford this year. I'd love to talk to Kalen about it and just kind of off to the side and say, is he got a little something extra this year than last year? Because he feels like he's got a little more gusto in him. Like, I feel like Brailsford has been going to Game Day Men's Health or something. Like he's just got a little something extra this year, which you can do too. If you lack energy, if you're getting poor sleep, if you feel on edge, could be the effects of low testosterone. They can help you with that. And here's what Game Day Men's Health wants to do. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Free consultation, no charge. And it's going to include a free testosterone test and a free PSA test. So they're going to get your baseline covered right now, see what you need, see what you want. And then they're going to find out how to make you feel better. Weight loss, multiple programs to help you with that. They can help you there. They're helping me with my health, helping me stay healthy on the road, feel good on the road. Mention Cube, save 10% right now on any service at Game Day Men's Health. Also, listen, the biggest differential between them and the competitors here in town, minimal upfront cost for the programs that they offer. Book your free consultation today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. It's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Tell them you heard about them right here on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. We had a game for the absolute ages in the SEC this weekend, and we haven't even mentioned it. We'll do that next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. JocksFM.com. You can get the podcast for anything that you missed, including Tyler Watts or Paul Feinbaum, or just our coverage of other games that we've had today. Tell your home smart speaker, enable the Jocks Hill. You can tune in that way. Get to Taylor Davis here in just a moment. She covered the Auburn game. But first, I want to tell you about Wayne's. I know the last thing you're thinking about is your yard heading into dormant season and those cold months, but you need to think about it now if you want your yard to be the envy of your neighborhood the next time it gets warm. Again, Wayne's going to start treating that now. Listen, they can still help you with the mosquitoes. They can still help you with the pest control and the termite control. But if you're looking to go ahead and get a head start on your yard for next spring and summer, Greg, you need to go ahead and call Wayne's today.
Yeah, the pre-emergent needs to set, and it's going to get cold here quickly. So call Wayne's today to get it taken care of. The Envirolawn's been one of the best investments I've made in the family. We spend tons of time outside on our front lawn, thanks to our friends at Wayne's. It's green, it's weed-free, and we know that it's already set for next summer because they've been out to the house multiple times treating it with the pre-emergent and the nutrients needed to survive the winter months. Call today and use the offer code JOX, that's J-O-X, at 866-WAYNES-1. You can also go online, use the offer code JOX for the first month free at callwaynes.com. That's offer code JOX. That's J-O-X. So call Wayne's today and get that first month free of the Envirolawn technology. 866-WAYNES-1. Visit callwaynes.com and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, let's go to the Buyers Right Hotline. Taylor Davis of ESPN on call for the Auburn game over the weekend. And we get a quarterback change, Taylor, and this started with your meetings on Friday. Can you just kind of take us through what you learned from Hugh Freeze about sort of the hows and whys that this quarterback change took place?
Yeah, it's one of those things that going into season, Hugh was very public about. Peyton Thorne has the reins, but it's met with expectations, and he's got to perform and live up to them. And week 2, he didn't. But when we sat down with Hugh on Friday, he actually showed us some film cut-ups from the Cal game at the quarterback position and said that he had sat down with both Peyton and Hank and gone through this film and had them explain decision making. He would pause it at different points and talk them through what they were seeing and how quickly they were coming to the decision. And he said Peyton had the answers that I wanted him to have, showing me that he understands and we've prepared and equipped him enough. It's just not translating in game. And conversely, Hank had the same answers as well. Hugh said he was coming to them a little earlier than Peyton. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20 when you've got a game already done. But he wanted to understand how they were seeing it and the decision-making component of it. And, guys, what I think is interesting is he didn't even show us the interception plays. Everybody fixated on Peyton threw 4 picks. That's not even what he was showing us. He was showing us the plays where they've got 7 in the box and Peyton's handing off to Jarquez Hunter and it leads to a turnover. The decision-making component that Peyton was unable to really be efficient in when the game time high-pressure moment comes, and he felt like Hank needed the opportunity to do so. He also said that Hank was showcasing more accuracy and a stronger arm, and I think we got an opportunity to see that in game as well. So it really came down to who was going to be able to make the correct decisions. And in game Saturday, that was one thing you should see clear as day in Hank, him going through his progressions. He was more calm in the pocket because, honestly, he doesn't have the comfortability in the run that Peyton does, so he didn't fall back on that as much. But that's ultimately what the coaching staff felt like. Okay, we've seen enough.
What do they think of that mobility that you just referenced? I mean, because I am concerned the offensive line is I'm just going to be kind. I think they're a problem. And based on what I saw against Cal, their only Power 5 competition this year, it was a disaster. Yeah. So how do they think they'll be able to hold up with a less mobile quarterback standing behind them?
It's a great point, and I think it's going to differ based on competition. And obviously, as SEC play comes in, that definitely may be a storyline. They're hopeful to get Too Tall Miller back very soon. And as soon as they do, they want to build some consistency on the offensive line instead of rotating guys as much as they've had to do. But with Hank's lack of mobility, I guess you could say, I mean, they say he's comfortable outside the pocket. I was watching him pregame. He was practicing a lot of throws on the run. And I know they're working with him on that. But he's not going to have the freedom to kind of go create the same way that Peyton did. And so that's why Hugh kept telling us, I'm not saying that you've seen the last of Peyton. I'm not saying that we know exactly how this is going to pan out. But what Peyton has been doing from a decision-making perspective and only relying on his ability to create isn't getting the job done. And so we have to do our due diligence and see what Hank can become. But I do agree with you. I think that the offensive line is going to continue to be a storyline that we follow. Again, if Tutal Miller's able to get in there, they feel better about what they have. But Hank, guys, what stood out to me so much talking to him, he's such a calm, confident guy. And we saw that in game. And when the level of your competition in your opponent raises, we'll see how much that confidence is maintained. But he is very calm and poised. And I think it almost gave the offensive line a bit of confidence as well. I was watching them on the sideline. There wasn't as much uptightness that I've seen. And Hugh Freeze mentioned that had kind of been the case around the building the couple days prior as well. So I think it's definitely going to be a risk. But your reward could be greater if Hank is able to increase the passing game and make better decisions. And another thing we talked about, guys, with some of the targets and the offensive weapons aside from line and quarterback that Auburn has, you just need your quarterback to not put you in bad situations. They're not even saying he needs to go be one of these superstars like a Cam Ward that we're seeing. And so obviously if they can get the ball out quickly and let those high-profile targets go make magic, you've got a better chance when SEC fronts come into town.
Taylor Davis of ESPN with us. She was on sideline for Auburn, New Mexico over the weekend. Back to some of the things from Coach Freeze. Mm-hmm. Can you go further detail what he pointed out about just kind of why Peyton Thorne couldn't continue to be his quarterback in his mind?
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting, and I was appreciative that Hugh kind of gave us full transparency in that conversation because Peyton has been there, a year plus now. The story last year, there were some different elements at play. Obviously, he wasn't there for spring ball. They were rotating Robbie Ashford in the beginning of season. Hugh wasn't calling the plays. He was swapping with Phil Montgomery. They didn't have any receivers that could help him. There were all these facets, right? So then this offseason, they really invest in who he can throw to. He starts building that chemistry. He's in the driver's seat, RPO-heavy offense. All he has to do is make the right decisions. And in game 2, you see somebody who almost looked like he was still uncomfortable or lack of confidence and familiarity with what they were doing. And that was Hugh's goal in going into that meeting with him. He said, look, first things first, I have to know that as coaches, we are equipping our quarterbacks well enough to go make proper decisions in live game action. So that's why he sat down and had him talk through what you're seeing, what's the situation here, what's your read, what should you have done, and make sure that the answers lined up. And when they did, he was like, okay, so this just isn't translating in game. And if that's the case, if this just comes down to your physical ability once game time comes, I have to give Hank this opportunity because if I don't do it now, I may ask him to do it against Arkansas or Oklahoma. That's not going to be great. So it really was what changes in your decision, and it almost was instinct for Peyton to just kind of take the run check down or to take off and run himself. He showed us an example where he hit a deep slant to Cam Coleman, and there were 2 intermediates that the defender was quite behind. So it wasn't the best situational awareness coming from Peyton. And, I mean, Greg, you know all too well this first start for Hank. He did well. He did his job, but the pressure is only going to increase as the expectation increases.
It was just strange to me when looking at how his comments after the game were, hey, we had a lot of pressure on him. I got to watch the tape. And then he basically doubled down early in the week. Hey, it wasn't all on him. There was a lot more to the story. And then all of a sudden, 3 days later, they decide, yeah, you know what? All of a sudden it was Peyton's fault. And we got to we have a really short leash at that position. It's almost like something like overnight changed. And I know you referenced the meeting, but I've been in a lot of those meetings before, and it seldom is, 2 years worth of practice and a whole season worth of practice leads to a decision that's made in a meeting. So I don't understand how that happens. Did he give you some explanation as to why he had such a significant change of heart?
Honestly, it didn't seem like it really was that much of a change of heart. And, we're always in these situations where the press conferences right at the beginning of the week, heightened emotions, and they're a bit guarded in how they're going to handle that because Peyton was getting a lot and an exorbitant amount of unfair, in my opinion, feedback from the Auburn fans, and he was getting booed on campus and at the Venmo requests and what have you. And Hugh Freeze doesn't want to obviously come out at the beginning of the week and say, I've already made up my mind because he threw 4 picks and I'm adding to the backlash that he's receiving. But at the same time, part of me does wonder if that meeting went a little bit differently than we were privy to, and that ultimately set Hugh's mind up. Or maybe Hank Brown's meeting just went fantastically, and that's really what did it. Hank came in and had the answers quickly and felt the confidence and the command. And one thing that he did say, again, not saying that Peyton doesn't, but he did tell us Hank really has the locker room. The guys are really drawn to him. He's got this calm confidence that a lot of the guys, he said that a couple defensive guys came to him and said, I'm excited for Hank to get this opportunity. So I'm not entirely sure the dynamics behind all of that, but Hugh did make it seem like once he watched the tape, his mind was made up, and whether or not he wanted to let everybody in on that, I'm not sure.
Taylor Davis joining us now on the Buyers Right Hotline, on sideline for the Auburn game this weekend with new quarterback Hank Brown. So you got to watch him operate. You observed him on the sideline. You talked to him after the game. Just give us your thoughts now that you went through it, lived it, saw it, of Hank Brown as Auburn's starting quarterback.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I actually talked to him pregame when they were in the locker room. He stepped back out, and I asked him a couple questions. And, you never would have guessed he was about to get his first start. He was so calm, so composed. Multiple teammates walking by him, encouraging him, things like that. But he just had this very, this poise about him. And honestly, Coach Freeze pointed that out to me. I did watch him as soon as the game began and the defense was on the field for the first drive. He sat down with one assistant coach and was just talking through everything. He wasn't standing on the sideline watching. That came later in the game. But to start it out, it was very introspective, very collected. He wasn't rattled. He's not a big rah-rah guy, but he's kind of a lead by example and lean on your relationships. And pregame, I was very curious because, Peyton spent a lot of time in the offseason with Keandre Lambert-Smith and Cam Coleman. Those two were kind of his guys, and I guess we saw a glimpse of that week 1 and 2. And so I was very curious, who does Hank kind of have that rapport with already? And it was Rivaldo Fairweather and Camden Brown who were with him the entire time pregame. If Hank was out there throwing, those two were with him. Both of those guys had touchdowns. So I came to realize that those two he's really built a strong relationship with. Some of those young guys, they also want to continue to get. Cam Coleman is not out for the season or anything like that, dealing with a stinger from the Cal game. But he was very composed and very calm and was just going about his business, had the guys around him often, and I think that you saw exactly what Hugh Freeze challenged him in: make proper decision-making moments in the right situation, go through your progressions and your reads, and you could see that when you go back and watch the film. That's exactly what he did.
Taylor, great stuff. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the insight. We appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Appreciate you having me, guys.
There's Taylor Davis with ESPN. She worked sideline for New Mexico at Auburn over the weekend, and just giving us some insight into making that decision. And she shared multiple times, social media and broadcast, Greg, that Freeze had 8 or 9 plays that he showed them. So I think it was her, Roy Philpott, and Sam Acho on the call, and went in and actually showed them plays, had plays for them to watch. And you heard her say, it wasn't the interceptions. I've never heard of it, but I don't know. I'm interested in your thoughts on just kind of a coach saying, "Hey, here, look, this is why we're making this decision."
One, I don't think that was what made the decision. 2, I think that a lot of it had to do with, I think there's a lot of pressure to make a move. I still don't necessarily agree with it. Doesn't mean that Hank Brown won't go on to have an amazing career. I just don't know if Peyton Thorne played his way out of the spot just yet. I also think that if you're going off of a meeting, just being honest, like if you're going off a meeting, like what do we practice for? If it's about who's the best guy on the chalkboard and who's the best guy in answering questions, I got news for you. I feel like I'm pretty dang smart as it relates to football. Cole, you and I have sat in meetings and talked about ball, and you want to put me up on the board and try to diagnose coverage? You want me to draw a play that beats a coverage? You want me to go through my progressions and my reads and all this other stuff? Like, that's fine. Like, you want me to do all that stuff and answer questions? Great. I think I can hold my own against anybody. But guess what? I'm probably better in a meeting than Tua Tagovailoa, perhaps. But I wouldn't play me over Tua Tagovailoa. I can promise you that. Like, I think a meeting, if that's where the decision's coming from, a meeting, not a practice. What is that? I've never heard of such a thing, ever.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine it's accumulation of a couple of things. But I do agree with you that exterior pressure, a big part of it. And listen, now you've done it, and you begin to build around Hank Brown, see what he can do, and utilize his skill set. And like we stated earlier in the show, the offense going to have to be a little bit different. And I noticed it in this game. Backside of the run game is going to be different. You're going to have guys flying down the line of scrimmage. You've got to prepare against that. And I think the quick game has to be there. You better develop some play action RPO game off that to be able to utilize what defenses are going to try to steal from you. Because it's not going to be something that opens up like it did before. And with the way that offensive line's playing, it might not matter who's quarterback. That's got to change. I mean, left guard, multiple whiffs, right tackle, which you had an injury, bringing different guys in, like that's got to change. Can't be what it is if you're going to find a way to consistently be successful on offense of what we've seen so far this season. So appreciate Taylor stopping by, having a conversation about that. We haven't gotten to our top three yet. We will do that on the other side. Before we get to our top three, though, G-Mac, I want you to tell our friends about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's awesome, man. It's really, really a place that I've gone and just had tremendous experience. Look, buying jewelry to me, in some cases, it's like a generational thing. Like it's something that I envision, hopefully, at some point being passed down to my daughter or to my son. It's a decision that you're making for your family for a very, very long time. And it should be meaningful. And you want it to be an experience that you remember going through with the sales staff that can be helpful, that can help guide you in a certain direction, that can get you exactly what you want. And that's the type of experience that you have with Bromberg's. You're investing in your family when you invest in a piece of jewelry. And that's the only place I've purchased jewelry from since moving back to Birmingham. It's a terrific, terrific place. There's a reason why they've been in business since 1836, nearly 200 years serving this community. So go see them in Mountain Brook Village in the Summit. You can also shop online at brombergs.com for that luxury shopping experience you can only get at Brombergs.
All right, a little bit of NFL discussion right after this on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning, 9:22 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Appreciate you tuning in. Great conversation about college football today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Get to some more of the national games, some other games around the SEC. First, I want to tell you about my friends at Airport Marine. If you're looking for a new fishing boat, doesn't matter. If you're a competitive fisherman, just a hobby, your headquarters is right there at Airport Marine. Go check them out now. They've got the #1 bass boat in Alabama, Skeeter, plus 4 more of the top brands right there in stock today and during Airport Marine's fall sale. They're making great deals on all boats, plus rebates up to $6,500. Also have 5 brands of pontoons at season-ending closeout prices. Now's the time you get that deal on a new pontoon at Airport Marine. Get in now for sale prices, big rebates on the biggest inventory of boats in Alabama. Right there at Airport Marine, your bass pontoon and Skeeter headquarters. All right, so Mondays, our top 3 goes to the NFL. Damian, what do you have for us today?
Well, starting off at #1, who would have thought that in the first 2 weeks of the season, the New Orleans Saints look like they are going to be hosting the Super Bowl at the crib, because it seems like they're the only team in the NFL that offensive explosion is an understatement for the first 2 weeks. John Saber, how do you feel about your New Orleans Saints early on?
Fine, I guess. As someone that has been hurt by this team for, let's see, I'm 43 or 42 years. 1 year they didn't hurt me. I'm waiting for the bottom to drop out, but for now, I'm happy. I'm excited. As I told your boy Chris when he called in earlier, it's like, that's great that they got the win against the Cowboys. They look phenomenal.
Yes.
Fat lot of good it'll do if you follow it up with a stinker. So show me you can do it, because everybody does it against the Panthers. Show me what you can do next week against another quality team.
I think everybody who plays the Panthers this year is probably going to be feeling pretty good about things.
They look pretty good, because I think they could win the American.
I'm not
Not
sure.
the American Football Conference, the American Athletic Conference.
It might be a dogfight.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on that. That was
Give me
rough.
Memphis -2.5 over the Carolina Panthers.
That's good value.
Yes, the 69 yards passing as a team for the Panthers didn't do it for you yesterday?
Oh, it's tough. Tough to watch.
Yeah, that brings me
New Orleans,
to...
on the other hand,
Oh, boy.
pretty impressed by their offense. They got some creative stuff. Like, I like that OC, Kubiak. He's the real deal.
Yeah, and speaking of quarterbacks and the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young and Will Levis are in competition of maybe the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now. The Tennessee Titans, for 2 weeks in a row, questionable isn't even a strong enough word for what Will Levis does in the pocket. There have been 2 weeks in a row where it's absolutely dumb football. And
I think he was out of the pocket when he had
the last
fast pitch softball toss yesterday.
That was absolutely insane. And it's not like the New York Jets are, God's gift to football right now. But I will say this, Aaron Rodgers, there are moments that you can tell that he is still that dude. And then there's moments that you can tell that's a 40-year-old on the football field. But nonetheless, the Titans are 0-2, so are the Carolina Panthers. And when you look at the AFC South as a whole, the Houston Texans right now, going at 2-0 after knocking off Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, something that the Tennessee Titans should have done in week 1. But everybody else in the division is 0-2. As the
they clinched the spot in the postseason?
Pretty much. You might as well lock that in. Houston's pretty much a top 4 team in the AFC for sure. They're going to get that. They're going to have the playoff spot for sure. But the Tennessee Titans, believe it or not, are still in contention for number 2 because everybody else ain't winning. So we'll see how it goes. But I do think that Carolina and Tennessee both have some quarterback issues.
You don't think you're in the team you're facing next week, the team's going to be quarterback's going to be motivated?
Maybe so.
Is Malik Willis coming back to town? Okay. Yeah. Good luck.
And speaking of Malik Willis, who would have thought that the trade that we sent him up to Green Bay, all he does is go out and has, for his first NFL start, his third NFL start, ends up with a victory over the Indianapolis Colts. And how about your boy Sam Darnold going back to San Francisco in a quote-unquote revenge game, leads the Minnesota Vikings to a victory over a San Francisco 49er team who looks a little bit different without Christian McCaffrey on the field. Shout out to, Mason in the backfield still going for over 100 yards, but still got some things to work out for the defending NFC champions and also the Detroit Lions falling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Baker Mayfield, 2-0 for the Tampa Bay Bucks in the NFC South. That looks a little bit tougher than what I thought it was going into the season, with New Orleans and Tampa Bay both being tied in the division lead.
What y'all think of Mahomes looking, well, like Mahomes?
I mean, I had it on late yesterday. I wasn't totally dialed into it, but I mean, no big surprise really.
Yeah, I'm about to say, big shock. Mahomes is good. Okay, cool.
I mean,
The
also no
breakdown that you
surprise, like
craved.
Cincinnati can't protect Burrow. Like, it hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I feel like you'd take a few more steps to try to shore that up, but because it feels almost exact. I know you've drafted a couple of guys, but it's kind of weird to watch the fact that when he needs to spend extra time in the pocket and operate there, like they can't get it done. Now you're playing one of the best D tackles in the league, so that doesn't really help.
Yeah.
But still.
Cole, I do have a question for you about your Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you think you rock with Justin Fields the rest of the way now? Or
I have no idea. I don't even know what that thing up there is right now.
Right. So your takeaways of beating the Falcons and the Broncos.
They're playing some defense.
No, giving up
Oh, for
16
sure.
points all year. I mean, yeah. Well, the defense is solid, but I just from a quarterback perspective, I have no idea. Like what? But he got it done for Russ. That's what they wanted to do yesterday. They wanted to get it done for Russ.
That's
so
what it
good.
was. Yeah.
I'm sure so many guys in the league want to win for Russell Wilson.
Always.
You're a big Russ guy, aren't you, Greg? Huge.
I like Russ. I really do. I think he's a good player. I think he got a little bit big for his britches early in the Denver debacle.
A little bit.
But I still like Russell Wilson, and I think he is a vastly more well-rounded quarterback than Justin Fields at this point. So, second he gets healthy, all right, Russ, go get him. Appreciate
Not
it.
great for Denver when Bo Nick's your leading rusher, by the way.
He made some throws that
246
looked
through the
very
air,
Auburn.
no
He
touchdowns,
made some
2
plays
picks.
yesterday that looked very Auburn Bo Nix.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're
Just had
talking
it
like
on
the-
in the background while I was peeking some college tape, but whoa, there were a couple doozies out there in Mile High.
Seems like these rookie quarterbacks understand, and saw Caleb Williams a little bit too, that some things you can get away with in the Pac-12, not going to be able to get away with in the National Football League.
Yeah, the screwing around in the pocket for 11 seconds doesn't really happen in the National Football League.
When?
Ball kind of needs to get out.
No.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got
like,
pass
there's no
rushers
other way.
there. They got guys that can get to the quarterback. It sounds crazy, but it's a real thing.
Tell me
It's
Will,
almost like guys get paid up there on
Anderson
defense.
wasn't going to take a step back when he got to the league.
Well, you know what? I also wouldn't put my tight end from across the line of scrimmage on him in a, must have it down either. That was a hell of a whiff by Cole Kmet, though. I don't blame him. And you saw him peeking over there on the replay.
Yep.
Like he was looking over there, and you could just see in his brain saying, they're really asking me to do this to this guy on this play. Okay. Whoop. Pull up a little short. Oh, man, I thought he was coming inside. Nope. Direct line to the quarterback.
Absolutely. And we have Monday Night Football tonight. The Philadelphia Eagles take it on the Atlanta Falcons. And Kirk Cousins, in his second start for the Atlanta Falcons, seems to see if he can figure things out, because I think there's a lot of things offensively that Atlanta may need to iron some stuff out. No A.J. Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles, and see what Jalen Hurts can do. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Atlanta's going to bounce back tonight. Get ready. Let's go.
Think so?
Let's go, Falcons.
Really?
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are you
So you're locking in Atlanta
are you
gets a
playing
win
that
tonight.
game or
Sounds like it.
I'm a Falcons guy.
Philly
really?
minus
I'm
five
done
and
with
Philly
the
minus
rest of these
5.5?
Give me the
home?
Falcons.
Oh, I'll take the Eagles.
Yeah.
Run game looked pretty good last week.
If Saquon hadn't missed a step call, he doesn't look like he's
Well, it cost me my fantasy game last week. Not that I care about fantasy football, but I am playing this year.
It doesn't show.
Please tell us about your fantasy team. Nothing that the listeners love more.
Well, let me check my roster from yesterday. See
So
how
are
we
you
went.
are you in tune to win today? Anybody playing tonight?
We're up 34 points, and my opponent has nobody playing tonight, and I have Bijan playing tonight.
yeah,
so I
hey,
think we're good.
Hey, and you're up by
I think we're
34
good.
after Sunday. Good job.
Yeah.
Why didn't we lead the show
got
with that?
28 points from Kyler Murray yesterday.
There we go.
Got 28 points from Cook on what was that, Thursday night? Or
Yeah, there we go.
yeah. So we had a good week. Greg, who doesn't
I
care
was
about
about
my
to
fantasy
ask.
team.
I was about to ask.
How about CeeDee Lamb throwing in 19 points? We'll take it.
I love how I'm considered the nerd on the show, and Cole's talking about his fantasy team.
I mean, you did ask him.
Yeah.
It was a,
Too
it
bad
was
we
a
had
trick.
Ramondre on the bench for 17 points.
Hey, it's all good.
Call.
Oh,
It
God.
happens.
Shows you right there. I know nothing about
I
it.
can't believe I didn't start Ramondre this weekend.
Exactly.
I would have won.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That's right. You were warned by more.
Next week, Greg, you and I are going to debate my lineup.
Be right there.
Talk about how important it is.
Can't wait.
But
Saints defense didn't do much for me, John.
My bad. I'll do better next time when I'm out on that field.
see what you can do.
I hate fantasy football.
No,
It's
no.
so stupid.
No, it's not, man.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's, the
It's
dumbest
literally
thing.
about it, just in number form. That's all it is. You want these guys to be successful.
Yeah, after the fact. You're going in hoping. No, it's too frustrating now.
I thought about it after I signed up for this. I was like, why am I teaching my kid to root for individual stats? Like,
Out about it,
There you
baby.
go.
this is ass backwards what we're doing here.
Yep.
So as far as he's concerned, we don't even have this team anymore. He doesn't even know about it. But I want to win for
Just
him.
want to win for him.
Obviously,
I want to win because his name's on it, but I'm not going to teach him how it works. Like, no. You know what he knew from yesterday? The Steelers won. That's what he knew.
That's it.
That's all he
Here
needed
we
to know.
go.
That's it.
Steelers.
So that's it.
Steel Curtain 2.0.
I don't know
baby.
about Pittsburgh going to the Super Bowl, but I do know here we go. So we will keep that going. All right, Damien, if some folks need real estate help in Birmingham, who should they call?
My buddy Ben Hedden of the Beham Realty Group. If you think about selling your home, and when it comes to selling, you only want excellence, you need to give my buddy Ben a call at 205-568-2705 or visit their website, BehamRealtyCo.com. If you're struggling to get your house sold because the markets are changing every single day, you need an expert that focuses on adapting at half the time to make sure you and your team come out on top. That's my buddy Ben Hedden of the Beham Realty Group. You can visit their website at BehamRealtyCo.com or give them a call at 205-568-2705.
All right, I don't even really know how to describe or what exactly to make of LSU at South Carolina because it had all of it, everything. And we'll try to describe it next on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning.
Welcome back to McElroy Cubic in the morning. Jocks 94.5, 9:38 here, Monday, Reaction Monday here on September 16th. A lot of big takeaways from the weekend in the SEC and a bunch of big takeaways nationally, too. I mean, there's a lot of things to get to that we'll get to tomorrow. Of course, we spend a lot of time on the SEC on Monday, and then we'll be a little more national tomorrow. So if you have some national takeaways, then we will certainly hit those tomorrow. You got to be kicking yourself if you're Notre Dame. Speaking of national, Bill Smith Buick GMC nationally acclaimed by GMC as the GMC Dealer of the Year. That's not a regional award. That's a national award, and they've won it 7 times. General Motors has said Bill Smith Buick GMC is the best GMC dealership in the entire country. It's because they have deals that you just can't find. They have inventory that you just can't find. They sell all over the country. If you go to BillSmithBuickGMC.com, go get yourself a GMC Sierra Denali, $2,500. The MSRP on this truck's over $90,000. You're going to take $7,000 off. This is a beautiful vehicle. A $2,500 Denali, $7,000 off. I mean, most places can't even get those on the lot. They have several. That's why they can offer you the best deal available at $83,000 and change, plus 5.9% for 84 months. Deals like that keep people coming back. That's why they are the very best in the country, and they sell more GMCs than anyone, and why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. So take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, so South Carolina welcomes LSU to Williams-Brice Stadium, Greg. And I guess the only bad part about this game was that it wasn't at night. But, I mean, Willie B was rocking. It gave you all the atmosphere, all the energy that you could want, and we got every bit of the game that we could want also. And, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. There were so many big plays. There were so many momentum-shifting plays. There were so many what felt like nail and coffin plays for both teams. Like it was just done. I think everything that we thought about the South Carolina defense and the defensive line showed up in this game. They were fantastic up front. LSU, I don't. There are some people that are talking about the inability to run the ball, and it's on the offensive line, and they can't protect. Like, I'll say this: they got beat. I mean, Will Campbell got beat. I mean, it was a problem. But also, I think scheme had a lot to do with it. There was a lot of confusion by this LSU offense early in this game. I mean, you had a running back and a guard that are picking up the same blitzer. You had some gap scheme runs where guys are pulling and they're indecisive on who their man is and who they're going to take. And the biggest thing for me in this game, and we can talk about, roughing the quarterback, we're going to talk about horse collar, and like those are two massive plays that you take off the board, points off the board, just huge shift in momentum and game and everything. But the biggest thing to me, Greg, that LSU did, I don't know if you noticed it, and when you go back and watch it, it will stick out to you. Early third quarter, LSU gets away from trying to run gap scheme, and they go duo, basically, or crunch. It's either one or the other. And basically, they just allowed Will Campbell to lock out the defensive end and said, if he's coming upfield, just kind of kick him out and extend him and keep him there. And we're just going to kind of creep off the ball, get as many double teams as we can, handle all this movement, sort it out, and then let our back kind of hit it out of the backside. And that's what the last touchdown run was. That's what their two biggest runs of the game were on. And I think that was the difference in the game, because if they'd have kept trying to run gap scheme with all that movement up front from South Carolina, they weren't going to move the ball on the ground. And if they didn't get themselves in some better situations from a down and distance standpoint, they weren't going to be able to allow Nussmeier to get anything done because they couldn't pick up the pressures. It was a really good adjustment by LSU in the middle of this game. But at the end of the day, it's listen, there are no should-haves in football. Do I believe South Carolina wins the game if Lenore Stellar stays in? Yes, I do. I don't know how else to say it. Robbie Ashford wasn't going to get it done. Made a couple nice throws on a 2-minute drive late, but also took a sack in a moment that you absolutely cannot. I mean, this was, in my opinion, the most entertaining game we've had this year, and it was just completely nuts.
Yes, it was. It was an amazing game. I am beyond frustrated, if I may, with certain calls and certain shows. And I've listened to many shows the last couple days. I've listened to coaches in their press conferences. A lot of people freaking out about some of the calls that were made against South Carolina and how the refs took this thing away from them and how how it was horribly officiated. I listened to one show where the guy said how poorly officiated it was and didn't even reference a single decision made by an official. He just said it was horribly officiated about 10 times, just completely placating to fans. And on this show, we don't talk about officials, because if you leave it in the hands of the officials, that's your fault. The one thing I would say is that the two game-changing calls, both pick sixes that were wiped off the board, those calls were officiated correctly. Whether you like it or not, those were correct calls. The horse collar on the quarterback inside the pocket is a new rule this year. They used the horse collar on Nussmeier inside the pocket and was pulled backward. That is a horse collar. If it happens in the open field, everyone cries horse collar, but now it can be done in the pocket as well. It resulted in a pick six that was wiped off the board. Hate it for South Carolina, but it was a horse collar. And the second one, it was an illegal blindside block on Kennard. They targeted the quarterback, illegal blindside block. That's a call. That's a penalty. So what I'm trying to figure out, you have to help me out here. I mean, you watched it like I did. The two plays that everyone's freaking out about now, quote, horribly officiated were they not officiated correct?
I don't know if I see the block the same way that you do. I mean, I felt like he could see the front of Nussmeier, and it wasn't even really a block. It was just a shove.
You're not allowed to crack back on the quarterback, regardless of what the circumstances are. You're not allowed to crack back on anybody.
I just felt like he was in front of him. Because when Nussmeier turned to chase the ball carrier, like, he became a defender at that point. And I didn't feel like it was from the blind side because he opened himself up that direction to go chase the ball and pursue the ball. That's how I saw it. And unfortunately, we only got one quick angle of it, so I don't think it really does it justice. But, I felt like it's kind of like what you said earlier about your game. It's just we're so sensitive to that position that even if it's close, like, we're automatically throwing it.
Answer me this.
And I unfortunately feel like this is a sidebar topic. I unfortunately feel like we're getting there with pass interference too. Because I saw some balls Saturday, Greg, not in SEC games. I saw some balls that were 10 yards away from receivers and flags coming out. Like 5 yards out of bounds. I mean, how's he getting that football? Like, stop. Like, it's just, it's just that, like, it's now all of a sudden it's instead of let's sort of evaluate it and see, it's like just go to the flag. And that's kind of disappointing to me, honestly.
Well, here's the one thing I would say. Answer me this. And you can be the judge. If you don't make that block, if you just stand there and Nussmeier, is he going to chase down the defensive back and make the play?
I mean, that's what he was attempting to do.
Okay, but was he going to be able to do that? Honestly,
I mean, he's on that hash. He's got an opportunity.
Is it a necessary
to get over
play? Is it dude? I just said a second ago that I thought the block or the call against Georgia that resulted in the roughing the passer penalty. The call against Georgia, I get it. Like, that was a terror. I didn't like it. I thought it was a bad call.
Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, I thought it was a bad call. I thought it's too soft on the quarterback. Like, I thought it was a perfectly fine hit. I didn't think he landed on him. I think he drove him down. I didn't think he did any of those things. So, like, I, for one, will call it when I see it. That play where he blocked Nussmeier was unnecessary, which is why I think it resulted in an illegal blindside block. And I don't think Nussmeier saw him. That's why I think he got hit and it startled him. I think it was a completely unnecessary play, which is why it got called.
All right.
Like,
It's
And
I
you're
mean,
you're going the opposite direction of the flow of traffic. Like the flow of traffic's up the sideline. He's going the opposite direction. That's a blindside block.
So listen, it's one that people are going to be mad at, and some people are going to say was necessary. We kind of see it in a little bit of a different light. I just felt like it was a little bit too sensitive in the moment, but hey, it is what it is. Absolutely cost South Carolina a chance to win that football game. When we come back, you guys know who shows up in Bad Box Score of the Day on Mondays. I have a note on Soldotna that you will not believe, and we'll discuss it right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning, 9:52 a.m. Monday, September 16th, right here on Jocks 94.5.
B-Dry has been serving Alabama and communities here across the state of Alabama for more than 60 years. They are the largest waterproofing company in the country, and they can get your solution taken care of. Right now, we've had wet weather the last week, man. Go check it out. Make sure everything's okay. If it's good in your basement or crawl space, if you notice there's mold or mildew beginning to spread, don't put it off. These are things that could be damaging, not just to your home, but to your family's health as well. You're going to get life of the structure warranty, and you're going to get the best price with no payments and 12 months interest-free for the next calendar year. So you get the job done right, strongest warranty, best price. Call 942-1976 or visit bdryalabama.com.
All right, we give it to you each and every day. It's the best of the worst. It's our bad box score of the day. And, of course, we go to our chosen sons, the Soldotna
Superstars at this point.
If you are new to the show, this is a high school football team in Alaska that we became aware of a little over a year ago and have followed them since. They have won 16 straight games now as they knocked off the Palmer
They're the trees.
No, we've gotten this one a lot, by the way.
Jesse.
Are they the Hawks?
They're the Moose.
Oh,
Moose.
yeah.
Hey.
Soldotna, another comfortable win, 42-14 over
Okay.
Palmer.
It's
And
kinda-
it wasn't just on the scoreboard that was dominant. The total yards were also dominant, 546 to 216 in this game. On the ground, Jacob Kemp rushed 14 times, 163 yards. Dax Walden rushed 10 times, 108 yards. They rushed 41 times for 411 yards.
Oh, that.
Oh,
Oh,
These
wow.
Soldotna Stars did.
Whew.
Yeah,
Ground and
they're-
pound.
I mean, they're up there in Tennessee territory,
That's-
which is where the interesting note about Soldotna will come in here in just a moment. But 546, 216 total yards. That's dominant fashion.
Solid double up.
Owen Buckby, junior quarterback for the Soldotna Stars, 4 of 7, Greg, 108 yards, also rushed for a touchdown. Sufficient, right? Sufficient day.
Yeah.
I mean, Soldotna's going to play in conference now. They'll go to Wasilla, 7 o'clock Friday night.
Okay.
Okay. Road trip.
Sun will still probably be out.
Here is your interesting note for Soldotna. You guys know who Keenan Peely is, correct?
Of course.
Yeah, love their show on Comedy Central.
Yes.
By the way,
Hmm.
you guys know how old Keenan Peely is?
I'm gonna say
Linebacker, Tennessee?
24.
28.
No. Greg?
Old. He's been
20
around for a while. So I don't
26.
know. Oof.
26.
Yeah.
He's 26 years old playing college football.
Still got it.
Keenan Peely's wife, Lindsay, a Soldotna star,
What?
graduated
Oh.
from Soldotna.
There it is.
Let's go.
Her brother
what
is
you
currently
need.
on the team right now. By the way, she's pregnant, so congrats to Keenan and Lindsay. Baby boy on the way. But yeah, Keenan Peely married to a Soldotna star. How about that?
Look at there. In SEC country just means more, even in Alaska.
Greatness just runs in the family now. Okay.
I'm here for it.
I mean, based on how Tennessee looked, it kind of makes sense.
Sprinkle in
So-
a little South Dalton game plan.
Just living the bad box score of the day. There you go. All right. Appreciate Paul Feinbaum, Tyler Watts on an airplane. Taylor Davis joined us today. If you need any of those podcasts, jocksfm.com. Just go to the app also. Download that, search WJOX, and you can get all the podcasts right there. You can watch the show there and listen live also. We're back tomorrow. Andy Burcham going to be with us tomorrow. Get his thoughts on Hank Brown as the new starting quarterback. Also, Rusty Mansell going to join us to talk those Georgia injuries that Greg mentioned and how quickly can they be cleaned up and get those bodies back on the field, because the next time they are on the field, it'll be against Alabama. A lot more college football conversation coming your way with Three Man Front and then Paul Feinbaum right here on Jocks 94.5.